Hey truckers, today we're seeing part 23 of Reincarnation of the Businesswoman at School. Let's dive into the video. Ling Xiaoting and Xiaoye didn't sit down until Tang Haifeng was seated on the sofa to show their respect for him. Father, he's the eldest grandson of the Ling family, the youngest major general in history, Tang Yunfan said. What? Tang Haifeng was shocked too. Are you Master Ling's grandson? Yes, Master Tang, Ling Xiaoting replied. No wonder I thought you looked familiar when I met you the first time. Tang Haifeng said. Tang Haifeng and Master Ling got to know each other when they were still young, but they weren't close. Tang Haifeng had also met Master Ling's eldest son, who was Ling Xiaoting's father, many times. Ling Xiaoting closely resembled his father, so Tang Haifeng thought that he looked familiar when they met for the first time. However, it had been ages, and Tang Haifeng was losing his memory, so he had failed to recognize Ling Xiaoting at first sight. Since Ling Xiaoting was his acquaintance's son, Tang Haifeng became much kinder to him, but he still stayed alert. What's your goal in the relationship with Ningning? Be with her forever. Although Ningning hasn't reached the age of consent yet, we can be engaged before that if you agree, Ling Xiaoting said with sincerity. In fact, he couldn't wait a second longer to marry Gu Ning. No way! Tang Haifeng rejected at once. If you're engaged, Ningning will be a member of your family. Ningning hasn't joined our family yet, and she's just 18. I think she can stay in our family for another 10 years. 10 years aren't long. Hearing that, Ling Xiaoting didn't know what to say. 10 years? He couldn't wait that long. Ningning can stay in the Tang family as she likes even if she's engaged to me, Ling Xiaoting said a while later. Ling Xiaoting was unwilling to stay in the Ling family's house, so they would move out even though they were married. No, it feels different whether Ningning is engaged or not. Tang Haifeng was still dissatisfied. Ling Xiaoting wasn't very persuasive, and he could only look at Gu Ning for help in silence. However, Gu Ning pretended that she didn't see it. Although it was Gu Ning's marriage and nobody could interfere in it, the members of the Tang family felt reluctant to see her leaving them. They knew that they had been absent for a long time in Gu Ning's life, so they had no right to make decisions for her. Tang Haifeng was also worried that it might cause any conflicts if he was too tough, so he became a little soft. It isn't easy to marry my granddaughter, and we need to see your performance. If we're satisfied, we can talk about it in the future, but we'll never agree on it if you dare hurt Ningning. Hearing that, Ling Xiaoting was relieved. Please trust me. I promise I'll treat Ningning well. Nobody knew what was going to happen in the future, because plans couldn't catch up with changes, but they still needed to live their lives. Therefore, they didn't find fault with Ling Xiaoting's promise. At this moment, the atmosphere became relaxed. Gu Ning asked how the infighting in the Tang family's company was now, but there was nothing new, so they didn't know what their enemies were going to do next. Tang Yunfan thought that it probably wouldn't be a good idea if he still pretended to be unconscious, and the others all agreed that he should go back to work in the company after a few days if their enemies still did nothing. Actually, Tang Weiyong wanted to take action, but he was waiting for the right time. La test novls on n.vel/co. At the same time in Tang Weiyong's house. In the study on the second floor, Tang Weiyong sat by the desk, and there was a young man with a plain face sitting across from him. Is everything ready? Tang Weiyong asked. Yes, the man said. Great! Tang Haifeng will leave the house tomorrow and we can take action then. Tang Weiyong decided to hurt Tang Haifeng this time. Anything else, boss? The man asked. Buy a piece of jade jewelry with a simple design at the Jade Beauty Jewelry store tomorrow and make a copy of it, Tang Weiyong said. Yes, sir, the man answered and left. Once the man was out, Tang Weiyong told Tang Xinrui to come in. Xinrui, Do you have any ideas on how to approach Guning? Tang Weiyong asked. He didn't know whether he would succeed in hurting Tang Haifeng. Even if it was successful, he couldn't let Guning go. As long as Tang Xinrui could get close to Guning, he would find out ways to deal with Gu Ning. Tang Weiyong had also read the news about Guning, and he had to admit that Guning was really amazing, so she would be his stumbling block if he didn't deal with her. I met a man who's a friend of Guning's, and they are going to attend the opening ceremony and runway show of Jade Beauty Jewelry tomorrow. I'll go with them, so it won't be difficult to approach Guning, Tang Xinrui said with confidence. Very well. Tang Weiyong was satisfied. Oh, my older brother called me this afternoon for 1,000,000 yuan, and he told me not to tell you, but I don't have 1,000,000 yuan, so I have to tell you, Tang Xinrui said, feeling cornered, and observed Tang Weiyong's face in case he would be mad. What? 1,000,000 yuan? Tang Weiyong indeed was mad. I just gave him 1,000,000 yuan at the New Year festival. It's just been a month. Why is he asking for money again? Although 1,000,000 yuan was nothing in his eyes, he wouldn't allow his son to waste his money like that. He needed his money for his career, but his son was a spendthrift. Did he tell you the reason why he needs so much money? Tang Weiyong asked in a cold voice. He said he slept with a woman and was caught by the woman's boyfriend, who's a junior leader in the mafia of Country Y, so he must pay 1,000,000 yuan, Tang Xinrui said. An angry Tang Weiyong hit the table with his hand with a loud sound. Nonsense! Tang Xinrui held her breath in fear, but felt quite happy in her heart, because the more her older brother disappointed their father, the more likely it was that the Tang family's future would fall in her hands. It wasn't her fault. She had suffered a lot ever since she was a little girl, because their family valued boys above girls. Her older brother became a spendthrift precisely because their parents had spoiled him rotten, and their father had no hope for her older brother precisely because he became a spendthrift. As long as her older brother stopped causing trouble, their father would choose him to be the sole heir even though he knew nothing about business. However, because she was a girl, she was always ignored, and lived in the shadow of her older brother. Therefore, she ached to prove herself and win Tang Weiyong's affection and attention. Tang Xinjie, who was Tang Xinrui's biological older brother, had asked her for money many times. She had given money to him if it wasn't a lot, to spoil him, but she wasn't willing to give him 1,000,000 yuan this time. In fact, she could afford it, but she aimed to let Tang Weiyong know how terrible his son was right now. Although Tang Weiyong already had no hope for Tang Xinjie, it was necessary for Tang Xinrui to emphasize that. I'll transfer 1,000,000 yuan to your card, and you can give it to him. Warn him not to cause any more trouble. Tang Weiyong said. Sure, Tang Xinrui said with a calm face, but thought that it was ridiculous and felt quite hurt. She thought that it was ridiculous because Tang Weiyong's warning was meaningless. She felt quite hurt because Tang Weiyong was still willing to give Tang Xinjie 1,000,000 yuan to help him solve the problem, while she never had much allowance and even had to earn money for herself. She knew that Tang Weiyong agreeing to let her inherit the Tang family's properties was something that would happen in the far future, and who knew what would happen? In that case, she thought that she was just a useful tool in her father's eyes. Maybe because she had watched too many dramas, but she always wondered whether Tang Weiyong had a love child. Tang Weiyong wasn't a loyal husband in marriage, and he had many mistresses. If not, why didn't he tell Tang Xinjie to marry a woman and give birth to a boy to inherit his business? Tang Weiyong valued boys much higher than girls. Was he really willing to let his daughter be the heiress? If she didn't have friends in Country Y to help her keep a watch on Tang Xinjie, she would wonder whether Tang Xinjie was just pretending to be ignorant and troublesome. Tang Weiyong transferred 1,000,000 yuan to Tang Xinrui and she walked out. Don't cause any more trouble. 1,000,000 yuan is all that I have now. I can't help you the next time, Tang Xinrui called Tang Xinjie and said. Stop trying to teach me a lesson. I'll do whatever I want. It's none of your business. Tang Xinjie was arrogant as usual. Tang Xinjie disliked his younger sister, but he always turned to her for money once he was running out of it, and turned his back on her the minute he got the money. Tang Xinrui, obviously, wouldn't satisfy his unreasonable needs if she didn't have her own plan. 5 minutes later, Tang Xinrui's phone rang, and it was a foreign number. "Hi, Goddess Erin, I've got the money," a man said on the phone when Tang Xinrui answered it. Erin was Tang Xinrui's English name. Her family had stayed in Country Y for over a dozen years. Just half a year ago, she had finished her education and went home with her father to conduct the scheme they had prepared for a long time. They were afraid that Tang Xinjie might cause them trouble, so they didn't allow him to go home. Actually, Tang Xinjie wasn't willing to go home either, because he lived a luxurious and dissipated life in Country Y along with his fair-weather friends. Hearing that, Tang Xinrui wore a satisfied smile. "Great. Please put the $1,000,000 into the fund." "No problem, Goddess Erin, and I'm looking forward to your arrival." "I miss the feeling of us having sex," the man said with levity. Tang Xinrui wasn't annoyed at all but just smiled. "I'm so sorry. I've been very busy recently." "Fine," the man said. "Well, wish you all the best." "Thanks," Tang Xinrui said, then hung up with her eyes full of ambition. Visit novilbin.c/m for the L-test updates. The man was called Bowen. He was a junior leader in the mafia in Country Y, and was also Tang Xinrui's friend, business partner, and lover. Their business was drugs, and Tang Xinrui had made a lot of money from it. Although she was a drug trafficker, she never took drugs herself. It was a highly risky business, but Country Y wasn't strict about it. The reason why she became a drug trafficker was because her father never gave her enough money except for daily expenses. Therefore, she abandoned her dignity and met Bowen. However, she wasn't happy that she was involved in this illegal business. Tang Wei-yong, of course, knew nothing about it. He just started to pay attention to her after he lost hope for Tang Xinjie. Feng Shuiqin had always wanted to hurt Gu Man, but Gu Man stayed in the Tang family's house all day, so she didn't have any chances. During the past few days, she lived her life as usual. She would shop with girlfriends, and make several booty calls. At this moment, Feng Shuiqin was dining with Wu Jini in a restaurant. All of a sudden, Wu Jini heard people mentioning the opening ceremony of Jade Beauty Jewelry, so she asked Feng Shuiqin, "Shuiqin, I heard that Jade Beauty Jewelry is going to open in City B tomorrow. It's a high-end jewelry brand. Do you want to have a look?" "Jade Beauty Jewelry? I haven't heard of it before. Is it a new brand?" "I'm not interested," Feng Shuiqin said with obvious disdain. She was born in the Feng family, and she only used international brands. Even though Jade Beauty Jewelry provided high-end jade jewelry, it didn't have much fame and couldn't match her high social status. "It is new, but I heard that its jade is of high quality." Both Jiang Lihua and Tang Yinrong were wearing jade jewelry from Jade Beauty Jewelry when they attended the party at the Lei family's house that day. Wu Jini said. "Really?" Feng Shuiqin was surprised that those two noble ladies would wear a new jewelry brand. "Yes. You left earlier that day, but I heard that Jade Beauty Jewelry is their niece's brand. I wonder whether Jiang Lihua and Tang Yinrong's niece is Tang Yinfan's daughter. If so, Tang Yinfan will show up at its opening ceremony," Wu Jini said. Wu Jini wasn't a frequent internet user at her age, so she knew nothing about the news that had gone viral, otherwise, she would know who the boss was. Hearing that, Feng Shuiqin was annoyed. "We'll find out tomorrow. Tang Yinfan's woman will definitely be there too, and I'm curious about her appearance," Feng Shuiqin said in her cold voice. She had to know as much about Gu Man as possible in order to carry out her scheme. They didn't stay together for long, and soon separated. When Feng Shuiqin had just gotten in her car, Lu Xinqi called her. He told Feng Shuiqin to meet him at the apartment they had been to before. Last night, Feng Shuiqin had a one-night stand with a young man, but she didn't enjoy it, so she made an appointment with Lu Xinqi tonight. Lu Xinqi was, of course, happy to receive Feng Shuiqin's invitation, and agreed without hesitation. Gu Ning and the others left after staying for a while in the Tang family's house. Gu Ning and Gu Man sat in Leng Xiaoting's car, while Qiaoya drove Gu Ning's. Qiao Wenxin also sat in Gu Ning's car. At the same time, Jiang Ruiqin went back to his house, and also seemed upset. Tang Qingyang frowned, and sensed that Jiang Ruiqin was in an even worse condition than before. In the past 2 days, Jiang Ruiqin only wore an absent look, but he seemed so hurt today. Was it all because of Gu Ning? What happened? Tang Qingyang asked with concern. My grandpa fainted all of a sudden today. He had a blood clot, Jiang Ruiqin said. What? Tang Qingyang was shocked. He thought that Jiang Ruiqin seemed so upset because of Gu Ning. However, Master Jiang had been in danger. How is your grandpa now? He asked again with anxiety. He's fine now, Jiang Ruiqin said. Oh, there is another thing, Jiang Ruiqin added. What? Tang Qingyang felt that Jiang Ruiqin was very hurt because of the other thing. Gu Ning already has a boyfriend, Jiang Ruiqin said. He was short of words to describe how sad he was when he said that. Well, Tang Qingyang was surprised. In their eyes, Gu Ning was still too young. Gu Ning is still young, and the relationship probably won't last long. You can wait if you truly like her, Tang Qingyang said to comfort his close friend. No, Jiang Ruiqin shook his head with a wry smile on face. It's basically hopeless. Her boyfriend is Leng Xiaoting, the eldest grandson of the Leng family. What? Tang Qingyang was stunned. Although he didn't know Leng Xiaoting, he had heard his name. In that case, Jiang Ruiqin was barely comparable to Leng Xiaoting in their family backgrounds. Will the Leng family agree? There is a huge gap between them. Tang Qingyang doubted it. Gu Ning was outstanding, but she was born in an ordinary family. After all, any rich or powerful families demanded a properly matched marriage. Master Ling approves of her very much. Master Su just joked that he would let Su Jinchen steal Leng Xiaoting's girlfriend away, and Master Ling already seemed mad. Jiang Ruiqin said. Find PT Tez on n/vln.cm. It was an undeniable truth that Master Ling really appreciated Gu Ning. If so, Tang Qingyang didn't know what else to say but just comforted his close friend again. Take it easy. Time will cure everything. It was impossible that Jiang Ruiqin could steal a person from the Ling family. Jiang Ruiqin wore a wry smile. He knew that time could cure everything, but he still felt quite hurt. When Gu Ning and the others arrived at Huafu Hills, Leng Xiaoting stayed in the same room, and Gu Man prepared another room for Qiaoya. That night, Leng Xiaoting slept alone in his room and didn't dare to slip into Gu Ning's, in case that would ruin his image in Gu Man's eyes. The next day, Gu Ning didn't get up to run in the morning. However, almost all of them got up around 7 a.m., except for Leng Xiaoting. Leng Xiaoting got up earlier to prepare breakfast for them. Oh, Xiaoting, you got up so early to prepare breakfast. Gu Man was surprised, and felt a little embarrassed. It wasn't appropriate to let a guest cook for them anyway. We're family. It's no big deal, Leng Xiaoting said. Gu Man was struck dumb for a second, then smiled. Although it was too early to say that they were family, it would happen sooner or later. In addition, Gu Man was happy that Leng Xiaoting was willing to get up early to prepare breakfast for them. There were few men who cook now. Chao Wenxin also joined them for breakfast, and the group of them left together after that. However, Chao Wenxin left alone and said that she needed to pick her friends up. When Gu Ning and the others arrived at the jewelry store, it was almost 9 a.m., which was an hour away from the opening ceremony. However, many onlookers and reporters were already waiting there. "Look, is that Miss Gu?" someone asked with excitement. Hearing that, others looked over at once. "Oh, yes, she is Goddess Gu." After making sure that the girl was Gu Ning, many people got excited and started to take photos of her. Reporters ran to interview Gu Ning as well. Seeing that, Gu Ning along with Xiaoya protected Gu Man at their backs, in case the crowd would scare her. Gu Man was indeed slightly surprised, but not scared. "Miss Gu, can we interview you?" Many microphones reached out to Gu Ning and cameras started to flash quickly. "Yes, but not right now. Please gather in the meeting hall in a little while, and I'll be there to answer your questions," Gu Ning smiled. Since she said so, those reporters didn't insist, and let Gu Ning walk through. "Wow, Goddess Gu is so gorgeous. She's even prettier than her photos." "Exactly. She's so amazing. She has achieved a lot at such an early age." At the same time, many young girls noticed Leng Xiaoting by Gu Ning's side. "The man at Miss Gu's side is so handsome." Geet the L Testvels on no/v/elben.c/om. I wonder whether he's Goddess Gu's older brother or boyfriend. Probably her older brother, because Goddess Gu is just 18. What's wrong with her age? I don't think that 18 is too young to have a boyfriend. I think he's her boyfriend. Gu Ning told Xiaoya to take Gu Man to have a rest in the store, and Leng Xiaoting stayed with Gu Ning at the door to welcome the customers. Most of the females focused on him, but Gu Ning didn't feel jealous as long as they kept a polite distance away from him. As time went by, more and more people came with flowers to congratulate Gu Ning. "Good morning, Miss Gu. Sorry I've come here without an invitation letter again this time." It was Zhao Yifeng. Gu Ning hadn't told him that her store was going to open today, but Zhao Yifeng came after hearing the news. Zhao Yifeng's secretary and driver followed him with 2 large bunches of flowers in their hands. "Nice to see you, Chairman Zhao." "Welcome." Gu Ning walked ahead at once, and shook hands with him. "Nice to see you, Chairman Zhao." "Nice to see you, Manager Zhou." Zhou Xinghong and Zhao Yifeng greeted each other. Zhao Yifeng wasn't a famous business figure, so others weren't very surprised to see him. Afterwards, Su Jinchen and Xian Bei arrived, which caused another round of exclamations. "Hi, Gu Ning!" Su Jinchen and Xian Bei said to Gu Ning at the same time. They didn't bring flowers with them, but prepared expensive gifts. "Gu Ning, do you need us to be models?" Su Jinchen joked. "Thanks, but no. Please have a seat inside." Gu Ning smiled. "It's fine. We can stand here," Su Jinchen said. He wasn't willing to walk inside. After a while, Si Ming and Qiu Yusin came. Qiu Yusin was a famous model, but she was never afraid of exposing her romantic relationship, because modeling was just her hobby, and it was the basis of her startup. Qiu Yusin was going to open an entertainment company. She loved modeling and the entertainment industry, so she decided to be a boss herself. "Isn't she the famous model, Qiu Yusin?" "Yes." "Is the man by her side her boyfriend?" "Probably." Seeing that, reporters ran over at once. Si Ming protected Qiu Yusin the moment reporters ran to them, but he didn't chase them away. He just prevented them from getting too close. Reporters were used to it as well. "Miss Qiu, Would you please tell us whether this man is your boyfriend? Yes, he is. Cho Yusin admitted without hesitation, which surprised them. Your boyfriend is really handsome and you're a beautiful couple, but aren't you afraid that your romantic relationship will affect your career? A reporter asked. Not at all, Cho Yusin said. Miss Cho, are you a friend of the boss of Jade Beauty Jewelry? Another reporter asked again. Yeah. Cho Yusin gave them a simple answer again, then said, Thank you, everyone, please let us walk through. Hearing that, the reporters moved away. Si Ming and Cho Yusin also brought gifts with them. Cho Yusin was one of the models today, so Gu Ning told her to rest inside. After that, Chao Wenxin arrived with a group of her friends that Gu Ning had met before. Gao Qingyun, An Ran, Jiang Zixing, Xu Yuanjin and Tong Jiayao, who always aimed to steal Leng Xiaoting away. They had heard of what Gu Ning had done a few days ago, and they were all astonished. Even Tong Jiayao started to doubt whether she could win against Gu Ning in a fight for love. Actually, the Tong family had over 12 billion yuan in wealth, which Jade Beauty Jewelry was barely comparable to, and she was the sole heiress of her family. She used to think that she was a rare, strong woman. Leng Xiaoting and she would be a perfect match. However, she suddenly felt that she had nothing better than Gu Ning except her family background and wealth after hearing about Gu Ning's achievements. She inherited her family background and wealth from her family, but Gu Ning earned everything on her own, which clearly showed who had greater ability. In addition, Gu Ning also maintained a good relationship with the Qinghua group. Although it didn't mean that she had a connection with the Qing gang, it was already shocking enough. Therefore, Tong Jiayao hesitated over whether she should chase Leng Xiaoting. Here I am, Chao Wenxin said to Gu Ning once she arrived. When Xian Bei saw that Chao Wenxin and her friends came in a group of 3 men and 3 women, he was displeased. He knew that they were just friends, but it would make others believe that they were 3 couples. However, even though he was displeased, he remained calm on the surface. Miss Gu, congratulations. They walked to Gu Ning and sent her flowers along with gifts. Thank you so much. Gu Ning smiled. Miss Gu, I didn't expect that you're so awesome. I thought that you're just a normal senior high school student. Gao Qingyun said. Tweel. Exactly. I used to think that I'm a rare, successful businesswoman in front of them, and I even showed off. Now I feel quite embarrassed after hearing what Miss Gu has achieved, Tong Jiayao said with a smile. She was very kind to Gu Ning now. Maybe because she had already given up. Haha, I guess you can stop teaching us from now on. Xu Yuanjin joked. Tong Jiayao had criticized her many times because she wasn't ambitious at all. Tong Jiayao wore a resigned smile in silence. Please look around as you like. I'm afraid I'll be busy all day, Gu Ning said. It's fine. You don't need to take care of us. None of them would mind. There were many other people who came to congratulate Gu Ning as well. Most of them came with a gift or a red envelope. After a while, representatives of Xingshi Group arrived. Once they appeared, it caused a sensation because Xingshi Group was a well-known dominant business group. To everyone's astonishment, Jade Beauty Jewelry had a connection with Xingshi Group. Jesus! Even Xingshi Group attended this opening ceremony. Miss Gu must be a very influential figure. She is. I've read a lot of shocking news about Jade Beauty Jewelry on the internet. Tell us. Many people were curious about it. Jade Beauty Jewelry's flagship store is in City G, and almost half of the high society in City G attended its opening ceremony, including senior officials, senior military officers, members of super-rich families and even the senior management of Qinghua Group. Wow! Hearing that, everyone was amazed. However, it was just the beginning. Xingshi Group? Jesus, Ning Ning, do you have a relationship with Xingshi Group? Chao Wenxin was astonished. Gu Ning said with a meaningful smile, yeah, I'm familiar with its chairman. You're so unbelievable. How do you manage to know so many important figures? Chao Wenxin couldn't believe it. Su Jinchen and Xian Bei gave Chao Wenxin a light glance. In fact, the chairman of Xingshi Group was standing right by her. Nevertheless, they couldn't say it aloud, because only a few people were aware of it. Tong Jiayao took a deep breath. To her astonishment, Gu Ning was even familiar with the chairman of Xingshi Group. She now completely gave up on stealing Gu Ning's boyfriend away. Representatives of Jinlin Group arrived later, which shocked the crowd again. Ning Ning, are you also familiar with the chairman of Jinlin Group? Chao Wenxin asked with great surprise. Not really, but a director of it, Gu Ning said. Su Jinchen was a director of Jinlin Group. Although he wasn't the heir of it, he also had an important position in it. Chao Wenxin was short of words now. Tong Jiayao was totally stunned. Read latest chapters at n/velbi.co/m. At this moment, Feng Shuiqin and Wu Jini quietly came to the event location. When she saw Gu Ning at the door, she was sure that this jewelry store belonged to Gu Ning. Feng Shuiqin was immediately in a rage. She glanced around Gu Ning, but didn't see any middle-aged women, so she thought that Gu Ning's mother must be in the store. They didn't come to congratulate Gu Ning, so they couldn't walk inside yet, but waited outside. Before everyone could get their mind back from the great shock, representatives of Tanghuang Group and Leijin Group came together. Were they in a dream? Were those people really representatives of Xingshi Group, Jinlin Group, Tanghuang Group and Leijin Group? The above four business groups were all dominant businesses in this country. Except for Leijin Group, the other three groups all had over 100 billion yuan in assets. How come those international business groups came to attend the opening ceremony of a jewelry store? Jade Beauty Jewelry was nothing before those dominant business groups. Therefore, nobody could believe his or her eyes. Is it true that those international business groups come to attend the opening ceremony of Jade Beauty Jewelry? Someone wondered in the crowd. Another person agreed at once. I can't believe it either. Gu Ning was really a girl who was full of surprises. Although people didn't believe that Gu Ning was as important as those figures in business right now, she had a powerful network. Feng Zuigan wasn't shocked by the arrival of Tanghuang Group and Leijin Group, because she already knew that Gu Ning was Tang Yunfan's daughter. The Tang family and the Lei family were very close, so it was very normal that they came here. However, what shocked the crowd more was that the leading figures of Tanghuang Group and Leijin Group also came here in person. Tang Haifeng along with Master Lei arrived together. Jesus! I can't believe my eyes now. Are they really Master Tang and Master Lei? Someone exclaimed. Jesus, they came in person. Ning Ning, I came to congratulate you in person, Tang Haifeng said with a kind smile. Ha ha, thank you so much for coming. Gu Ning said. Oh, let me introduce you, this is your Grandpa Lei, Tang Haifeng said. So nice to meet you, Grandpa Lei. Gu Ning greeted Master Lei politely. Nice to meet you too, Girl Gu. Master Lei said. Please have a seat inside. Would you mind cutting the ribbon together later? Gu Ning asked. No problem. Master Tang and Master Lei agreed with alacrity, then walked into the store following Gu Ning. Only those who came to attend the opening ceremony could have a seat inside, and onlookers could only stand outside, so it wasn't crowded in the store at all. Gu Ning arranged 2 seats for them before she walked out. Master Fu, Master Bai and Master Yan were absent today, but they also sent gifts to Gu Ning to congratulate her. Afterwards, Tang Yunrong came with her friends. When Tang Yinrong saw Chao Wenxin standing with Xin Bei, she was surprised. Thinking that they might be dating each other, Tang Yinrong smiled at Chao Wenxin. Chao Wenxin flushed because she knew what was in her mother's mind. She wanted to explain, but her mother said nothing yet, so it would be strange if she brought it up herself. However, she subconsciously moved a few steps away from Xin Bei, but it was useless in Tang Yinrong's eyes. Xin Bei had the same feeling as Chao Wenxin, but he had no intention to explain it. "Nice to see you, Mrs. Chao." Xin Bei greeted Tang Yinrong at once. "Nice to see you too," Tang Yinrong said with a gentle smile. "Hi, Aunt Yinrong," Gu Ning greeted her. "Nice to see you, Aunt Yinrong," Lim Xiaoting greeted her the same way. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Chao." Su Jinchen also greeted Tang Yinrong with respect. "Ning Ning, congratulations. This is a gift for you," Tang Yinrong said, then gave the box in her hands to Gu Ning. "Thanks, Aunt Yinrong." Gu Ning took it. "Miss Gu, congratulations." Tang Yinrong's friends also gave Gu Ning many gifts and red envelopes. They didn't say much, because they came here with Tang Yinrong. "Thank you so much. Please have a seat inside," Gu Ning said. "All right, let's go look around the store now," Tang Yinrong said to her friends. After a while, Jiang Lihua also came with her friends, and they gave Gu Ning red envelopes too. In the following minutes, many senior officials sent either flowers or gifts to congratulate Gu Ning for the opening of Jade Beauty Jewelry. Even colorful jade provider of City Tang, which was far from City B, sent flowers here. Although colorful jade provider wasn't very famous yet, it was a very rich company. Many jewelry businessmen who cooperated with colorful jade provider were surprised that it was invited too. There were many peers today as well. Sometimes, peers might not be competitors, but business partners, so many jewelry businessmen came to cooperate with Jade Beauty Jewelry. If Jade Beauty Jewelry became popular across the country, they could join it in the future. However, Gu Ning had no intention to let other jewelry businessmen join her company because she made up her mind to build her own brand. "Hey, boss, congratulations." Pan Zirwei came along with his friends. Except for one woman, Gu Ning had met the rest of them, including Zhou Guangrui, Guan Bin, Gao Yongqing, Feng Xin and Hu Hao. Each of them brought flowers or gifts. They had also heard of what Gu Ning had done these days, and they were shocked too. Feng Xin, who wanted to ride on Gu Ning's coattails, now gave up because he knew that he didn't have the ability to deceive Gu Ning. Although he ached to have a connection with the Tang family, he had to face reality. The woman Gu Ning had never met before was precisely Tang Xinrui. Tang Xinrui had seen Gu Ning's photos before, but she still had to admit that Gu Ning was really stunning when she saw her in real life. Gu Ning wasn't only beautiful, but also had outstanding ability, which made her feel jealous. In addition to that, Gu Ning also had a tall, strong boyfriend, who was very attractive to most women, including her. However, she had no intention to steal Gu Ning's boyfriend away because she knew that she was doomed to fail if she tried. This time, Tang Xinrui came with Feng Xin. Although they just met, they were already good friends, otherwise Feng Xin wouldn't bring her here. "Miss Gu, congratulations." They all congratulate Gu Ning. "Thanks. Please look around inside," Gu Ning said. Because Gu Ning was very busy, nobody introduced Tang Xinrui to Gu Ning, but Tang Xinrui didn't mind, because she would be in touch with Gu Ning later. Fanghua Entertainment, Xinhua Real Estate, and Colane Pharmaceutical Company also sent flowers here. The above companies weren't very famous, so people didn't pay much attention to them. However, when the Qinghua Group sent flowers to congratulate Gu Ning, everyone was astonished once more. Discover new stories at nv/lbin.c/o. What? Qinghua Group? Those who weren't aware of the news about Jade Beauty Jewelry were quite surprised to hear the name of the Tsinghua Group. Although the Tsinghua Group wasn't as famous as Xingshi Group, Jinlin Group or Tanghuang Group, it was very influential too because it was the Qing gang's business. Besides Tsinghua Group, Heike Group also sent flowers here. People who were at the opening ceremony were short of words to describe how shocked they were now. Heike Group was the business of the Kirin gang. How come Gu Ning had a relationship with both the Kirin gang and the Qing gang? Jesus! I don't know what to say now. Gu Ning is so amazing. I think that Gu Ning just has a relationship with the Kirin gang and the Qing gang's businesses. If she had a relationship with the Kirin gang and the Qing gang, why did the two gangs not come to congratulate her under the name of their gangs? I agree. Although the Tsinghua Group is the Qing gang's business and the Heike Group is the Kirin gang's business, their businesses are apart from their gangs. Hearing that, people all agreed, because it was very hard for them to believe that Gu Ning was able to have a relationship with both the Kirin gang and the Qing gang. In fact, Siti Yi and Qi Tianlin didn't show up in person in order to not cause Gu Ning trouble. It wasn't a good thing for a company to have a connection with a gang after all. Even so, it was still shocking enough that Gu Ning had such a powerful network. Once representatives of the Kirin gangs and the Qing gang's businesses showed up, nobody dared to cause Jade Beauty Jewelry any trouble. Tang Xinrui, however, was an exception. Tang Xinrui was aware of the connection between Jade Beauty Jewelry and the Tsinghua Group, but she didn't believe that Gu Ning was able to have a relationship with the Qing gang either. Moreover, relationships between companies were all about benefits. To Tang Xinrui's astonishment, the Heike Group, Xingshi Group and Jinlin Group also came to attend this opening ceremony. Many businessmen ached to have a beneficial relationship with those large corporations, but failed. It seemed that Gu Ning was more influential than she used to think. Feng Shuiqin was shocked by the guests who came to attend this opening ceremony too. She couldn't believe that Gu Ning could maintain a good relationship with so many important figures, and she wondered whether those people came for the sake of the Tang family. When it was almost 10 a.m., Su Tongnuo arrived, which caused another round of exclamations. Ah! Goddess Su! Tongnuo! I love you! Tongnuo, I'm your biggest fan! Many of Su Tongnuo's fans came here especially to see her. Su Tongnuo was very kind and smiled at her fans. Reporters also ran to interview her, but was declined by Su Tongnuo. I'm sorry. It's almost 10 a.m. and we can't interrupt the opening ceremony. We can have the interview at the meeting hall in a little while. Hearing that, people realized that it was only 10 minutes away from the beginning of the opening ceremony. There were countless important figures, so none of those reporters dared to cause any trouble. When Pan Zirwei saw Su Tongnuo, his eyes lit up, but Su Tongnuo worked for Gu Ning, so he didn't dare to make eyes at her. A while later, the opening ceremony was about to begin, and people walked out from the store one after another. Feng Shuiqin noticed that a middle-aged woman walked to Gu Ning's side, so she was sure at once that the woman must be Gu Ning's mother as well as Tang Yunfan's woman. Although the woman looked quite young, she had the charming air of a mature woman, and she also resembled Gu Ning. However, honestly, Gu Ning resembled her father more than her mother. All of a sudden, Feng Shuiqin felt very jealous of Gu Man, because she had to admit that Gu Man looked younger and more beautiful than her. Shuiqin, calm down. Wu Jini reminded Feng Shuiqin to stay calm the moment she noticed that Feng Shuiqin was losing control of herself. In addition, Master Tang and other important figures were also there, and they wouldn't allow Feng Shuiqin to ruin this opening ceremony. Feng Shuiqin did her best to calm herself down after Wu Jini's reminder. She knew that it wouldn't do her any good if she ruined this opening ceremony. However, Tang Yunfan was still absent. Feng Shuiqin didn't feel happy, or unhappy knowing that Tang Yinfan was absent because she wanted to see him but was reluctant to see him being with Gu Man and Gu Ning. Zhou Xinghong went on the stage to address the audience first. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to attend the opening ceremony of Jade Beauty Jewelry. At the end of his speech, the audience applauded. Gu Ning then went on stage. Although she didn't give a formal speech like Zhou Xinghong, she behaved like an experienced and successful businesswoman, which impressed the audience. Gu Ning wasn't like an 18-year-old girl at all. Even Tang Haifeng couldn't help but compliment her. Ningning is much more mature than her age. You're right, Master Lei said. He had never seen anyone who was able to be so mature and stable at such an early age before. Wow, Goddess Gu looks so cool. If I were a man, I would marry her. An ordinary man can't marry Goddess Gu. The man must be good-looking, rich, smart, and outstanding, just like Goddess Gu. I agree. Up to TED Chapters NNVelben.com. A group of young girls discussed that under the stage in a low voice. Seeing that those young girls held great admiration for Gu Ning, Feng Shuiqin hated Gu Ning to death. In Feng Shuiqin's eyes, Gu Ning should never exist. Gu Ning's mother should disappear too. If it hadn't been for Gu Ning's mother, Tang Yinfan wouldn't have rejected her. Feng Shuiqin believed that Tang Yinfan rejected her because of Gu Ning's mother, not because he disliked her from the very beginning. Feng Shuiqin was really a control freak in love. Wu Jini was worried about Feng Shuiqin now, because Feng Shuiqin was doomed to failure if she dared to annoy the Tang family. Let alone the Tang family who supported Gu Ning behind her back, the Feng family was barely comparable to any of the other dominant business groups that were invited to attend today's opening ceremony. However, Feng Shuiqin had already lost her reason and wouldn't care about the result once she decided to do something, especially when it was about Tang Yinfan. In that case, Wu Jini could only remind Feng Shuiqin not to cause any trouble when she was with her, in case she would be punished too. Gu Ning didn't give a long speech, and the next part was ribbon cutting. Gu Ning, Tang Haifeng, Master Lei, Su Tonghua and Zhou Xinghong cut the ribbon together. After ribbon cutting, the jewelry store was open to everyone, but most of the people were looking forward to the lucky draw. Feng Shuiqin didn't walk inside, because she had nothing to do in the store, but she took pictures of Gu Ning and Gu Man. Many people were taking photos at the ceremony, so nobody paid attention to her. Although Gu Ning shocked her today, it didn't mean that she would give up her scheme against Gu Ning and Gu Man. After all, she planned to hire someone else to do it for her. In the next hour, many people went to join in the lucky draw. In order to avoid confusion, they all stood in a line. There were over 1,000 red envelopes in the container. As for the 10 prizes of jade pendants, there would a piece of paper in each of the 10 red envelopes. As for other prizes, there would be several bills inside. After a long time, around 70 people had dipped their hand into the container, but drew out no prize. Just when people doubted whether there were real prizes in the container, a person drew out a red envelope with a 100 yuan bill inside. Although it was a shame that the person didn't win the jade pendant, a 100 yuan bill was better than nothing. As time went by, only a few people won several bills in a red envelope. Just when they were about to lose hope, a person won the jade pendant and almost shouted in excitement. The good news cheered many people up. Although fewer people walked into the store, most of them were potential buyers. Tang Yinrong's and Jiang Lihua's friends were all noble women, and each of them bought several pieces of jade jewelry. They didn't do it for the sake of Tang Yinrong or Jiang Lihua, but because the designs of the jade jewelry really attracted them. In addition, the jewelry in the store was all made of high-quality jade. Therefore, jade beauty jewelry was more popular than other jewelry brands among the rich ladies. Although there weren't many differences in the designs of jewelry, brands still differed from each other. Some liked famous brands, which could accentuate their wealth, while some preferred brands of good quality, which were comfortable. Different people had different opinions. Is there any piece that you like? I can buy it for you as a gift, Siming said to Chiu Yusin. Aren't you afraid that it'll cost you a fortune? Chiu Yusin smiled. I'm happy to buy it for you as long as you're happy, Siming said. Please, stop showing off your affection for each other. Chao Wenxin felt so hurt standing by their side. We don't mind it if you can do the same, Chiu Yusin said, and challenged Chao Wenxin. Chao Wenxin pouted in silence. Many onlookers posted videos and photos of the opening ceremony of jade beauty jewelry on the internet, and it soon became a hot topic. Everyone was shocked by the attendees. Jesus, Goddess Gu is able to maintain a good relationship with so many famous corporations and even the two biggest gangs. Goddess Gu is so unbelievable. Tsinghua Group and Heike Group don't stand for the Qing Gang and the Kirin Gang. Stop bragging. Discover W stories on no/e/lbin.com. Exactly, Tsinghua Group and Heike Group are just businesses of the Qing Gang and the Kirin Gang. Many people held that opinion, which Gu Ning wouldn't disagree with. So what? It's still not an easy thing to maintain a good relationship with Tsinghua Group and Heike Group. I'm short of words to describe my astonishment now. Goddess Gu, are you still hiring? Can I join your company? Me too. Although many people complimented Gu Ning's achievement, there were still many haters too. It must be a publicity stunt. I don't believe that she can have such a powerful network at such an early age. Me either. In some people's eyes, it was hard to believe that Gu Ning, who was still a young girl, could maintain a good relationship with many famous companies and important figures. Some haters even attacked Gu Ning on the internet. Did she sell her body to build up her network? She's very attractive after all. I agree, so it must be a publicity stunt. Nonsense. You are just being jealous. Do you have any evidence to prove that she has done that? Stop slandering Goddess Gu. Do you have any evidence to prove that she has not done that? Don't be so mean. Goddess Gu earns everything on her own. You're just her dumb fan. You're a stupid hater. Many haters were still attacking Gu Ning on the internet, but Gu Ning's loyal fans defended her even harder. Did you lose your reason? Who would dare to use those dominant business groups for a publicity stunt? Although Goddess Gu is really outstanding, she doesn't have the ability to fool those important figures in business. Exactly. Tsinghua Group also attended the opening ceremony of jade beauty jewelry in City G last time. Open your eyes. Couldn't you see that both? Aster Tang, who's the richest man in City B, and Master Lei, who's the leading role of another super-rich family in City B, attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Those haters are all idiots. Afterwards, reporters who had attended the opening ceremony posted their interviews on their official Weibo accounts, which proved that everything was real. Within minutes, jade beauty jewelry and Gu Ning became the hottest topics on Weibo once more. Many celebrities were jealous of Gu Ning now, because they had tried hard to be a hot topic on Weibo, but it was in vain. However, they were also astonished by Gu Ning's network. Xingshi Group, Jinlin Group and Tanghuang Group were all the top business corporations in this country. In addition, the businesses of the two biggest gangs also had a relationship with Gu Ning. In that case, nobody dared to cause Gu Ning or jade beauty jewelry any trouble. Ordinary people, of course, didn't dare to do that, but ambitious people were exceptions. Danger always stayed with power and wealth. No matter who you were or what industry you were involved in, you would have competitors or even enemies the moment you joined the society. Therefore, although most people were afraid of Gu Ning's network, some still dared to challenge her. Tang Wei-yong was one of them. He was going to fight against the Tang family in business, and Gu Ning was his target too. No matter how powerful or rich a person was, he or she could have shortcomings as well. And no matter how weak or poor a person was for now, he or she could also beat a strong enemy with the right tactics. Tang Wei-yong had succeeded in attacking Tang Yunfan twice. Gu Ning had overcome many difficulties which didn't seem solvable, so that she was able to achieve a lot today. Many rich men had been abducted and blackmailed. Many leaders of some countries had also been murdered. There were many other shocking events in this world. Therefore, no matter if you were powerful or weak, it could be changed. Power and wealth could protect you, but could also put you in a dangerous position. Tang Wei-yong was paying special attention to news about Gu Ning. Without a doubt, he was shocked by Gu Ning's network too, but he didn't care about it and would never give up his scheme against Gu Ning. Besides, businessmen gathered for interests and dispersed once there was no benefit. Tang Wei-yong had experienced that in person. Discover W stories on no/e/lbin.com. Accordingly, he would keep on competing against Tang Haifeng and Gu Ning. Moreover, since he found out that Gu Ning wasn't a weak competitor at all, he would be more careful and more determined to remove Gu Ning from his way to success. As for Tang Yunfan, Tang Wei-yong believed that he was still unconscious. It was already very lucky that Tang Yunfan had survived such a serious car accident. Tang Yunfan was the chairman of Tang Huang Group, so his subordinates had also visited him. They were all sure that Tang Yunfan was still lying in the bed. In that case, Tang Wei-yong removed Tang Yunfan's name from his target list. A short time after the opening ceremony of Jade Beauty Jewelry, someone came to cause Gu Ning trouble. He was a man who was around 40 years old, and he demanded to see Gu Ning, the boss of Jade Beauty Jewelry, once he walked inside. Since the man came to see her, Gu Ning showed up. Wu Yuanping? Before Gu Ning could say something, Tang Haifeng recognized the man. Wu Yuanping was surprised to see Tang Haifeng, then greeted him with great respect, "Master Tang." "May I help, Mr. Wu?" Gu Ning asked. Although she sensed that this man wasn't coming for anything good, she remained polite since he knew Tang Haifeng. "I heard that the boss of Jade Beauty Jewelry made the first bucket of gold by stone gambling. Is that true?" Wu Yuanping asked. "Yes," Gu Ning replied. "Just by stone gambling, you've never taken out a loan?" Wu Yuanping asked again. "Yes," Gu Ning replied once more. Hearing that, people around them were all astonished. They had all heard that Gu Ning had made a lot of money by stone gambling, but none of them expected that Gu Ning had earned the whole Jade Beauty Jewelry by it. In other words, Gu Ning had made over 100 million yuan by stone gambling. Thinking of that, people were all shocked. Reporters also realized that it was a very important moment, so they all turned on their cameras, trying to film it. It's very impressive that you can make so much money just by stone gambling. I have great admiration for you, but I still want to challenge you, Wu Yuanping said. Wu Yuanping, what do you want to do? Tang Haifeng frowned in annoyance. It was obvious that Wu Yuanping came here to cause Gu Ning trouble. However, to Tang Haifeng's surprise, Wu Yuanping dared to do that right in front of his eyes. He's here to cause trouble. Right, but I'm curious what exactly he's going to do. Doesn't he know the close relationship between Miss Gu and Master Tang? Onlookers all believed that Wu Yuanping was crazy. Gu Man and Gu Ning's friends, however, was afraid that it might affect the business of the jewelry store. When Wu Yuanping heard people's discussion, he frowned. Although he didn't dare to annoy Master Tang, he had no intention to step back. He had seen many people who became rich by stone gambling, but what Gu Ning had achieved was beyond his imagination. How was she able to establish a high-end jewelry brand just by stone gambling? Stone gambling was well known as a highly risky game, but Gu Ning could easily make money by it, which was unacceptable in Wu Yuanping's eyes. He had been involved in stone gambling for over 20 years, and what Gu Ning had achieved was simply a miracle in this industry. "It's fine. I can handle it," Gu Ning comforted Tang Haifeng. Tang Haifeng respected Gu Ning's decisions, so he remained silent. After that, Gu Ning looked at Wu Yuanping and asked, "So what do you want to do?" Gu Ning knew that he wouldn't leave without a result, and he aroused her interest too. "I want to have a competition with you," Wu Yuanping said. "Ning Ning." Tang Haifeng was slightly worried and wanted to stop Gu Ning because he knew that Wu Yuanping was very experienced in stone gambling. If Gu Ning lost, it would affect the reputation of her jewelry store. People didn't care where she got the jade, but nobody liked the feeling of being deceived. However, if Gu Ning rejected, people might think that Gu Ning was guilty and didn't dare meet the challenge. Therefore, Tang Haifeng debated whether to stop Gu Ning or not. Ning Ning. Gu Man, Tang Yinrong and the others were also worried. "Don't worry. Trust me," Gu Ning said with confidence. Since Gu Ning was confident about herself, they didn't say anything further. In the store, only Ling Xiaoting and Zhou Xinghong completely believed in Gu Ning because they had witnessed her ability of stone gambling. "How do you want to compete?" Gu Ning asked with a calm face. "I brought a truck full of jade raw materials with me. Each of us can choose 3 out of them. Whoever cuts out the most valuable jade will be the winner," Wu Yuanping said with a serious face. It seemed that he wasn't causing Gu Ning trouble, but simply wanted to challenge Gu Ning, which changed Gu Ning's impression of him. Other people in the store were looking forward to the competition. "I accept your challenge, but you can't set the rules alone. Since it's a competition, there must be a bet," Gu Ning said. "What bet?" Wu Yuanping asked. He didn't mind Gu Ning's condition. Gu Ning smiled and said, "I'll pay you for the raw materials, and those raw materials along with the jade cut out from them will be mine. If neither of us can cut out jade, it's even. If both of us cut out jade, the loser should pay 5 million yuan. How is it?" Actually, Gu Ning wanted to say that the loser should pay the price of the jade the winner cut out, but Wu Yuanping could end up paying dozens of millions of yuan in that case. That wasn't what Gu Ning wanted. She knew that Wu Yuanping was doomed to failure, and she didn't have the heart to deprive him of his wealth. However, it was still unknown whether there was high-level jade among Wu Yuanping's raw materials. "Deal." Wu Yuanping agreed with alacrity, because he could afford 5 million yuan. Many people in the store weren't very rich, so they believed that Wu Yuanping must be crazy to set a bet of 5 million yuan just for a competition. "Mr. Wu, I think that we better sign an agreement beforehand," Gu Ning said. "No problem," Wu Yuanping said. After that, Gu Ning and Wu Yuanping signed an agreement. "Why don't we have a bet on the result of the competition?" Su Jinchen gently knocked Xian Bei's arm. "Sure. I bet on Gu Ning, and you bet on Wu Yuanping. The loser must do the laundry 10 times for the winner." "How is it?" Xian Bei asked. Su Jinchen was struck dumb for a second, then argued. "I want to bet on Gu Ning." "Are you kidding me? Since both of us believe that Gu Ning will win, why would we bet?" Xian Bei gave Su Jinchen a glance of disdain. "Fine." Su Jinchen gave up. Pan Zirwei and his friends also want to have a bet, but they gave up too after hearing the talk between Xian Bei and Su Jinchen. Almost everyone who knew Gu Ning believed that she would win. Nevertheless, some in the crowd began to bet on the result of the competition, and most of them bet on Gu Ning given her unbelievable achievement today. Wu Yuanping, on the other hand, was a stranger. Before long, the competition began. Wu Yuanping's truck was parked in the parking lot outside of the shopping mall, so the group of them walked to his truck together. Find PT Tez on n/vln.cm. Wu Yuanping told the two stonecutters who came with him to open the truck and move the stone-cutting machines down. In order to save time, Wu Yuanping brought two stone-cutting machines. Onlookers took out their phones to take pictures, and some even opened live streaming. Gu Ning has gained a lot of attention these days, so many internet users were watching the competition online once they saw Gu Ning in the video. Although the network anchor knew that Gu Ning was very famous now, she was still shocked by the number of internet users who swarmed into her channel within just a few minutes. The camera of the network anchor's phone was facing the area of stone cutting, so the incoming internet users were able to see Gu Ning, the stone cutting machines and those raw materials in the truck. Wow, Goddess Gu is really in a competition of stone gambling now. I'm so excited! I'm curious who will win. Once the stone-cutting machines were moved down, there were over 100 jade raw materials left in the truck. Miss Gu, after you, Wu Yuanping said politely. Gu Ning didn't hesitate, and went into the truck. She used her jade eyes to glance around the raw materials. The majority were stones without any jade inside, and there were only 2 pieces of medium-level jade. Gu Ning took the only 2 raw materials with medium-level jade inside. One raw material was as large as a football, while the other was half the size of a football. The jade inside accounted for 1/3 of each raw material. At the same time, Gu Ning took another raw material which was waste in order to attract less attention and also save some time. It took around 20 minutes to cut out a piece of jade, while it only took 2 minutes to cut a raw material without jade inside. Anyway, she already picked out the best raw materials, and Wu Yuanping was doomed to failure even if he was able to find the 3 raw materials with medium-low-level jade inside. At this moment, Tang Jiakai, Ouyang Xiyuan and Song Maoshua arrived. What's going on here? Tang Jiakai was confused. Stone gambling, someone answered. What? Isn't today the opening ceremony? Tang Jiakai asked again. Someone came to cause trouble, another person said. Who dared to do that? Tang Jiakai was displeased hearing that, and walked to his mother and grandpa at once. Jiang Lihua criticized Tang Jiakai when he showed up. Why are you so late? Tang Jiakai felt a little embarrassed. I drank too much last night at my friend's birthday party, so I got up late this morning. Jiang Lihua was mad. When she was about to teach him a lesson, she was interrupted by something new happening at the area of stone gambling. You've already finished choosing? Wu Yuanping was surprised that Gu Ning picked out 3 raw materials within just 2 minutes. Normally, it took a long time for a person to choose a raw material, but Gu Ning finished it within a short time and didn't even use any tools. Some people who had some knowledge of stone gambling were also amazed by Gu Ning's efficiency. Tang Haifeng was worried too. I'm done, and I hope that Mr. Wu can be quick too, because I just have an hour, Gu Ning said. In fact, she could finish choosing within just a minute, but it took some time to turn up the raw materials she wanted. After that, she jumped down from the truck and walked towards a stone cutter. In the live stream, many people had never heard of stone gambling, so they remained silent. However, some who knew a little about it started to complain. Geht the Testfels on no/v/elben.c/om. No way, how can she be so quick? Does it take a long time to choose a jade raw material? Someone asked. Of course, it's not easy to choose a good raw material, and it takes dozens of minutes normally. She picked out 3 within just 2 minutes. Oh, I understand. I think Goddess Gu probably knows nothing about stone gambling. She made the first bucket of gold by stone gambling. If she knows nothing about it, how did she manage to make so much money before? Is it a lie? I don't think Goddess Gu will lie to us. It's probably her own way of choosing raw materials. I agree. Let's see what will happen. My younger sister is really outstanding, Tang Jiakai said with pride. Tang Jiakai never doubted Gu Ning, even though some people didn't believe her. When Xian Bei heard that, he thought that Gu Ning must have a special relationship with the Tang family. It was just a thought, and he didn't think further. Gu Ning drew lines on the raw material, which was waste first, then gave it to the stone cutter. Wu Yuanping felt stressed when he chose the raw materials, because Gu Ning was able to finish it at a much faster pace than normal people. Wu Yuanping wasn't willing to waste much time either. He had checked those raw materials before he came here anyway. While Wu Yuanping was still choosing raw materials, Gu Ning was ready to cut hers. The raw material was small, so it took less time to cut a piece off it, but there was just stone inside. After the second cut, it was still a common stone, which worried Tang Haifeng and others who stood by Gu Ning's side. Although Wu Yuanping was still choosing raw materials, he paid some attention to the stone cutting. When he saw that Gu Ning's raw material was just a stone, he relaxed a little. All in all, he thought highly of Gu Ning, because Gu Ning was well known for her outstanding ability of stone gambling. In the beginning, he thought that he might lose, but he wouldn't give up until the end. Many internet users also doubted Gu Ning's ability in the live stream now. I think it's just a stone without any jade inside. Probably, but there could be jade hidden deeper inside. I'm reading articles related to stone gambling online, but it's so difficult to understand them. Haha, I barely know anything about it either. Please cut it through the middle. Gu Ning didn't want to waste time, so she told the stone cutter to cut the raw material through the middle. Hearing that, everyone was surprised, because it meant that this raw material was waste. Sure, the stone cutter said. Before the raw material was cut in half, Wu Yuanping found the first raw material he wanted. He gave it to another stone cutter, then glanced at Gu Ning with mixed emotions before he went to choose the other two raw materials he needed. Gu Ning gave his raw material a glance, and she saw that there was medium low-level jade in it. She had to admit that Wu Yuanping was indeed good at it. Wu Yuanping didn't have jade eyes like her, so he totally depended on his knowledge and luck. Gu Ning's first raw material turned out to be a stone. It's a stone! People who supported Gu Ning was upset. It's fine. There are another two raw materials, and Ning Ning can win. Ling Xiaoting said with confidence. Tang Jiakai didn't notice Ling Xiaoting until he heard his voice. He was impressed by Ling Xiaoting's attractive appearance, and wondered who he was. However, he didn't think further, because he believed that Ling Xiaoting must be Gu Ning's friend. Internet users in the live stream were also disappointed. No way! It's just a stone. It's so disappointing. Please, stone gambling is a well-known, highly risky activity. It's very difficult to cut out jade, otherwise jade wouldn't be so expensive. Agree. If there is a piece of jade among the three raw materials, it's very good already. Hearing that, they stopped arguing. When Gu Ning was about to cut her second raw material, Wu Yuanping's first raw material showed green. Although it wasn't pure green, it was jade. The green shows! The stone cutter was excited. Hearing that, Wu Yuanping was thrilled. What? The green shows? Tang Haifeng and others who were supportive of Gu Ning felt more worried now. Only Ling Xiaoting, Zhou Xinghong and Tang Jiakai stayed calm. Onlookers started to change their opinions of Gu Ning too. It seems that Miss Gu isn't better than Mr. Wu. I thought that she would win. In the live stream, some internet users complained again. Didn't someone tell us that it's very difficult to cut out jade? Why did the man easily cut it out? Gu Ning didn't spend much time on choosing raw materials, and I thought that she did that because she is confident about herself. Now it seems that she is just arrogant. Exactly. She's very conceited. I used to like her, but now I change my mind. She isn't as good as her fans have claimed. Come on, the competition isn't over yet. It's too early to judge now. Right, let's see what will happen. Different people held different opinions about Gu Ning's performance. A short while after Wu Yuanping's first raw material showed green, Gu Ning's second raw material showed green too, and it was much purer than Wu Yuanping's. The green shows, the stone cutter shouted in excitement. Check out LTSTVL on novl/bin.cm. What? The green shows again? Everyone was shocked. Tang Haifeng and the others were a little relieved. Wu Yuanping was surprised and ran to have a look in a hurry. When he saw the green shown in Gu Ning's raw material, he was upset, because this jade was much better than his. The question remained now was whether there was a whole piece of jade inside or just a thin layer of it. In the live stream. See? Gu Ning cut out jade too. Goddess Gu, fighting. Seeing that Gu Ning cut out jade, her fans were excited. In order to celebrate, Gu Ning's fans sent many virtual gifts to the network anchor. Thank you for sharing this exciting event with us. The network anchor was surprised, and replied at once. My pleasure. It was the first time that she had received so many virtual gifts, which amounted to a certain amount of money. The network anchor was, of course, glad to make money without using much effort. At this moment, a rich fan sent her an expensive virtual gift which was worth hundreds of yuan, and she almost yelled in excitement. After a while, Gu Ning's jade was fully cut out, and Wu Yuanping had a feeling that he was going to lose. Although he still had 2 raw materials waiting to be cut out, Gu Ning's jade was of the medium level, while his was of medium-low level. It wasn't a big difference, but the price was completely different. About a dozen minutes later, both Gu Ning and Wu Yuanping were ready to cut their next raw material. Gu Ning used her jade eyes, and saw that there was medium-low-level jade in one of the 2 raw materials Wu Yuanping had picked out, while the other was a stone. The 2 stone cutting machines worked at the same time. Gu Ning's raw material showed green, but Wu Yuanping's didn't. Seeing the green, everyone was astonished, especially Wu Yuanping. Green showed once more. Whether he won the competition or not, Wu Yuanping had to admit that Gu Ning was really excellent at stone gambling, because she was able to cut out 2 pieces of jade out of just 3 raw materials. Wu Yuanping's second raw material was waste without a doubt. Although he cut out another jade from his third raw material, it wasn't as valuable as Gu Ning's, so he lost. Miss Gu, I lose the game, and I accept the result without any complaints, Wu Yuanping said to Gu Ning with sincerity. Everyone was shocked again. Ning Ning wins! Tang Haifeng and the others who supported Gu Ning were excited. I knew that my younger sister was going to win. Tang Jiakai said with pride. Wow, she's so amazing. Su Jinchen was amazed. You didn't know until now? Xian Bei looked at Su Jinchen, like he already knew. It already proved Gu Ning's outstanding ability that she was able to make so much money by stone gambling. In addition, they also knew Gu Ning's personality well. Since she accepted the challenge, she was confident that she could win. Although Xian Bei believed that Gu Ning could win, he was still amazed by the result. What? Why Mr. Wu lost the game, someone asked with doubt, because he couldn't tell the quality of the jade and didn't know whose jade was more valuable. The 2 pieces of jade that I've cut out aren't as valuable as a single piece of jade that Miss Gu has cut out, Wu Yuanping said. Hearing that, everyone was surprised, and began to compliment Gu Ning. Miss Gu is so amazing. She won. Exactly. I just thought that she might lose. Most people were supportive of Gu Ning, because they all expected Gu Ning to win. In addition, Gu Ning accepted Wu Yuanping's challenge without hesitation, which proved that she was confident about herself. In the live stream, Gu Ning's fans were excited. Wow! Goddess Gu is my idol now. There is nothing she can't do. Exactly! She's so charming. I think I'm in love with Goddess Gu now. I hope that I can one day meet Goddess Gu in real life. Me too. Well, I think it could be a publicity stunt. Why does she have to cut out jade right in front of everyone? New N0vel chapters are published on N0v/e/lbin/co/m. Come on, Goddess Gu doesn't need any more publicity stunts now. She's already famous enough. Are you an idiot? Don't you know how famous Goddess Gu is right now? Once some internet users attacked Gu Ning's loyal fans would fight back and force them to be silent. Some of Gu Ning's big fans were in a good mood once Gu Ning won the competition, so they tipped the network anchor. Within minutes, the network anchor received a lot of money. The live show lasted for about 40 minutes, and the network anchor had received several thousand yuan in all. It was a lot compared to the amount of money she could normally get. It was the effect of Gu Ning. Miss Gu is able to make 5 million yuan so easily. I'm so envious of her. More than just 5 million yuan. The 2 pieces of jade alone are worth several million yuan at least. Jesus! Really? Of course. My family runs a stone gambling store. The jade Gu Ning has cut out is just common jade, and the best jade could be worth over dozens of million yuan. Has your family cut out any jade? It's not that easy. If my family could easily cut out jade, we would be super rich now. Well, I think that only rich people can play this game. Miss Gu, do you want a check or transfer? Wu Yuanping asked. A check please, Gu Ning said. Wu Yuanping took out a checkbook and wrote down the number along with his name, before he tore off a piece and gave it to Gu Ning. Gu Ning took the check and said to Tang Haifeng, I know that there is a charity foundation run by the Tang family. Grandpa Tang, please help me contact the manager. I want to donate these 2 pieces of jade together with this check of 5 million yuan to it. Hearing that, people were all shocked. None of them could believe his or her ears. Why did Gu Ning want to donate the 2 pieces of jade together with the check of 5 million yuan to a charity foundation? The 2 pieces of jade alone were worth over 5 million yuan at the least. In that case, Gu Ning donated 10 million yuan at once. Although Gu Ning was rich, there were plenty of people who were richer than her in this world, but not many could be as generous as her. She didn't use much effort to get that amount of money, but it was hers after all. Sure. Tang Haifeng supported Gu Ning. 10 million yuan was nothing in their eyes, but it could help a lot of people. People all admired Gu Ning's kind gesture, because she was very generous and nice. Tong Jiayao now felt that Gu Ning was better than her in every aspect. However, some internet users still attacked Gu Ning in the live stream. She did that just to gain a good reputation. Once the comment was out, the account was amid criticisms. Seriously? Why are you so mean? Not many rich people are willing to donate 10 million yuan to a charity. I'm just saying, and why doesn't she take out money from her own pocket? Why did she use another person's money? You're ridiculous. Goddess Gu won the money on her own, so the money is hers. Haters lose their reason. I support Goddess Gu. Me too. Miss Gu, could you please tell me how you make judgments? Wu Yuanping asked with curiosity. Sorry, that's my unique skill, and I won't tell anyone else, Gu Ning said. She was telling the truth, because there was no one else who owned a pair of jade eyes. Fine. Since Gu Ning said so, Wu Yuanping didn't insist, and left. It was almost 11:30 a.m. when the competition came to an end, and Gu Ning and the others were about to leave for the Huangdang Hotel. Ning, I'm sorry that I'm late. Tang Jiakai apologized to Gu Ning. Gu Ning smiled. It's fine. You're here anyway. After that, Gu Ning and the others went to Huangdang Hotel along with the jade jewelry the models would wear. As for Gu Ning's donation, Tang Haifeng arranged a meeting with the manager at the Huangdang Hotel. The charity foundation run by the Tang family had a great reputation, so people wouldn't wonder whether Gu Ning really donated her money to it even though they didn't see it with their own eyes. Everything was ready at this time in Huangdang Hotel. The release conference would begin at 12:20 a.m. After 2 minutes, Gu Ning and the others arrived. When they walked into the hall, there were already many people inside. Several men walked forward to welcome them at once. Most importantly, Tang Haifeng and Master Lei showed up in person. Oh, it's such an honor to meet you, Master Tang and Master Lei. How are you these days? I don't think there is a need to ask that question. Both Master Tang and Master Lei look so good. Exactly. No matter who met Tang Haifeng and Master Lei, it was unavoidable that he or she would fawn over them. Haha, I'm good, so I came to join in the activity. Tang Haifeng laughed, and he behaved like an ordinary, kind old man. However, Tang Haifeng had been in a high position in politics for many years, so he had a natural air of power. Therefore, many people were still in awe of him. They walked over mainly to welcome Tang Haifeng and Master Lei, but they also wouldn't ignore Gu Ning, who was the leading role today. This must be Miss Gu, right? A man looked at Gu Ning and asked. Nice to meet you. I'm Gu Ning said with a smile. Miss Gu is really an outstanding young girl. Exactly. I've never seen another young girl who is able to achieve so much at such an early age like Miss Gu. I wish my children could be as outstanding as Miss Gu. Let alone the younger generation, I myself feel ashamed of my lack of creative talent. They were not flattering Gu Ning, but really thought highly of Gu Ning because she was so young. Facing their compliments, Gu Ning just smiled and stayed modest. Thank you so much for your encouragement. I think I still need to learn and practice more. Gu Ning's modest attitude strengthened people's good impression of her. Two young women were talking about Gu Ning from behind the crowd. Yuzi is so lucky to meet such a good boss, a woman said, feeling happy for Yuzi. Exactly. I'm curious to see Lin Tianyo's face after he hears this news, another woman said, gloating over Yuzi's victory. They were Yuzi and Chao Wenxin's mutual friends. Lin, why don't we have a bet on whether Lin Tianyu will try to get Yuzi back after he finds out, a woman said with interest. Lin rolled her eyes at her friend. Isn't it obvious enough? Lin Tianyu will definitely try to get Yuzi back once he finds out. Her friend shrugged. Fine. Although I'm curious to see Lin Tianyo's reaction, I prefer to see him disappear from Yuzi's sight. When Tang Haifeng and the others were all seated, Gu Ning took the jade jewelry to the models backstage. There was an anteroom and an interior room backstage, and the interior room consisted of the models' dressing rooms and lounge. Hi, Miss Gu. The moment Gu Ning walked into the anteroom, Gao Yi stood up and greeted her. Are they ready? Gu Ning asked. Yes, they're waiting for the jewelry now, Gao Yi said. Great, Gu Ning said, then walked to the interior room. There were only women inside, so it wasn't convenient for Gao Yi to walk in.
Hi, boss.
Yuzi greeted Gu Ning once she appeared. All the models turned to look at Gu Ning as well, and they were all stunned by her beauty. Although those models were very attractive themselves, they still had to admit that Gu Ning was even more beautiful than them. Most importantly, Gu Ning didn't wear any makeup. Her skin looked so smooth, and it was even shining under the lights. The models might be jealous of Gu Ning, but didn't dare to annoy her given her identity. Gu Ning was also satisfied to see them with makeup and gowns on. Each of the models was tall and had a great body shape along with a good-looking face. Please put the jewelry on now, Gu Ning said, and put the jewelry box on the table. Hearing that, they surrounded the table at once. After putting down the jewelry, Gu Ning left. Gao Yi and Yuzi would be in charge of the backstage work. When Gu Ning walked back into the hall, most of the guests were present. Some recognized Gu Ning and went to greet her at once. Nice to meet you, Miss Gu. I'm the manager of. Miss Gu, nice to meet you. I'm. They introduced themselves first, and Gu Ning talked to them kindly. She behaved like a mature woman, not a teenager. It was rare to see such a young girl being so stable. Some of them came here to meet Gu Ning, and some came here because of the Tang family. They knew that Gu Ning had a special relationship with the Tang family, so they were all kind to Gu Ning. Although there weren't many big names at this release conference, many people came on behalf of many famous clothing companies. When it was almost 12 p.m., they were all seated. It was a release conference, not a party, so it was very official. Around 12 p.m., a host went onto the stage and announced the beginning of the release conference before he invited 4 major roles of today's activity to the stage. They were Gu Ning, the boss of Jade Beauty Jewelry, Zhou Jinghong, the general manager of Jade Beauty Jewelry, Yu Zi, the designer of Charm, and Su Tonghua, the spokesperson of Jade Beauty Jewelry and Charm. At first, Gu Ning addressed the audience as the boss of Jade Beauty Jewelry. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending today's release conference of Jade Beauty Jewelry and Charm, Gu Ning said. Both Jade Beauty Jewelry and Charm are high-end brands, and we only provide jewelry and gowns of high quality. I'm confident that the designers of our jade jewelry and gowns will become well-known masters, but I can promise right now that the prices of our products will stay the same. Gu Ning's short speech was quite persuasive. Many products were of bad quality now, including those famous brands. If its designer was famous, the price could be much higher. It wasn't reasonable that a price was set according to the product's fame. The same thing went to stars. If 2 singers sang the same song on the same stage, the one who was more famous would have higher pay. As Jade Beauty Jewelry attracted more and more attention, its designers and carvers would become increasingly famous. However, Gu Ning promised that they would keep the prices the same. The audience burst into applause under the stage. After that, it was the interview time, and reporters couldn't wait a second longer for it. Reporter, Miss Gu, you claimed that you were born in an ordinary family, and you made the first bucket of gold by stone gambling, but how do you manage to maintain a good relationship with so many dominant business groups? Gu Ning, they're all my friends' friends, and came to congratulate me for the sake of my friends. I'm very grateful to all those who spared some time to attend today's activity. As for Grandpa Tang, we met each other because of stone gambling, and Master Lei is Grandpa Tang's close friend. It's my honor that they show up today. Gu Ning didn't say that she had a close relationship with those dominant business groups, but explained she was able to invite them to come here on her friend's coattails. Even so, people still thought highly of Gu Ning, because it wasn't easy to do that. Reporter, Miss Gu, you're very young, why are you so good at fighting or kung fu? Full 0W current novels on n/o/v/3l/b in.co/m Gu Ning, because I had a very good and strict master. Reporter, could you please tell us who your master is? Gu Ning, she already passed away. Saying that, Gu Ning wore a sad expression. Seeing that, the reporter immediately apologized. I'm sorry to hear that. It's fine, Gu Ning said. Afterwards, the interview continued. Not only Gu Ning, but Zhou Xinghong, Su Tonghua and Yu Zi were also interviewed. Reporter, Mr. Zhou, could you please tell us how you met Miss Gu, and why you decided to work for her? Zhou Xinghong, I met Miss Gu at the Stone Gambling Street. I was a jewelry businessman, but I was trapped by an enemy in business and went bankrupt. It was Miss Gu who helped me out and even hired me as the manager of her jewelry store. I've always felt that I'm very lucky to work for Miss Gu, and I want to thank Miss Gu for her appreciation. After that, Zhou Xinghong bowed to Gu Ning. Gu Ning didn't stop him and accepted it with a smile. I hired you because you're a good manager. Gu Ning's response was very practical, and it was also an approval of Zhou Xinghong. Hearing what Zhou Xinghong had said, the audience admired Gu Ning even more, because Gu Ning wasn't only kind and generous, but also good at choosing the right people. A successful person had to have the ability to find the right partners. Su Tonghua was the next person interviewed by the reporters. Reporter, Miss Su, we heard that you had been shut out from the entertainment industry for a long time, and you came back after just 1 year. Can you tell us how you managed to do that? Su Tonghua, I think Fading Entertainment has already responded to the fact that I was shut out from this industry. It's not uncommon in the entertainment industry that an actor ends a contract with a company. Although Fading Entertainment had shut her out of the entertainment industry before, Su Tonghua had no intention to attack them now, which wouldn't do any good to her career. Su Tonghua, I'm signed by Fanghua Entertainment now, and I think Fanghua is a great company with a bright future, which is also the reason why I chose to work for it. Su Tonghua was much more popular now than before. Although she didn't have many famous works yet, she already gained a lot of attention from the public. As long as she did good work, she would become a household name sooner or later. In addition, Gu Ning was her boss now, so it would be easy for her to do that. Many reporters also had a good impression of Fanghua Entertainment, which was just a newly established entertainment company. Although it wasn't officially established yet, many people had heard of its name. In the conflict with Li Jiayue, Fanghua Entertainment took full control of it, while Fading Entertainment remained silent. In fact, Fading Entertainment had the support of someone in the government, but was still defeated by Fanghua Entertainment. Moreover, the best actress, Fong Tang, and the best actor, Liu Yizhou were also supportive of Fanghua Entertainment. In that case, Fanghua Entertainment had to be very influential. Discover NW Chapter SNN0EL by.com. Li Jiayue, of course, dug the grave for herself. After Li Jiayue and her agent, Tong Jin, were fired by Fading Entertainment, there were no positions for them in the entertainment industry anymore, because other entertainment companies didn't dare to hire them. Therefore, Li Jiayue could only sell her body for money. She was already used to living a luxurious life, and she couldn't live without luxuries. Anyway, those rich men didn't mind playing around with her, and even kept her as their mistress. Li Jiayue made less money now, but could still afford an expensive apartment and luxuries. Tong Jin, on the other hand, moved to live abroad. Reporter, you're the leading role in Infinite Horror directed by Liu Zhan this time. It's said that director Liu annoyed an important figure and had been shut out for several years. Aren't you afraid that his film won't be shown in theaters? Those who knew that Gu Ning was also the boss of Fanghua Entertainment didn't think that it was possible, because nobody dared to act against Gu Ning now. The reporter didn't know that Fanghua Entertainment also belonged to Gu Ning, otherwise he wouldn't have asked that question. Gu Ning had a powerful network now, and so, of course, the film would be shown in theaters as long as she wanted. No matter who the person that shut Liu Zhan out of the entertainment industry was, he wouldn't be willing to annoy so many important figures just because of a director. Su Tonghua, Director Liu has done nothing wrong, and I think that it's the fault of the person who shut Director Liu out of this industry. Hearing that, everyone took a deep breath. Although it was right, Su Tonghua was really bold to say that aloud. Wasn't she afraid that the person would punish her? Reporter, aren't you afraid that the person will shut you out as well? Su Tonghua, I believe that Fanghua Entertainment can protect its staff. In other words, Fanghua Entertainment wouldn't allow anyone to shut her out. Reporter, you're so confident that Fanghua Entertainment can protect its staff. Doesn't it mean that there is a powerful support behind Fanghua? Su Tonghua, I'm sorry. I have no idea. Since she said so, the reporters didn't insist and turned to interview Yuzi, who had no fame yet. Although Yuzi wasn't famous at all, she played a major role in today's release conference, so it was necessary for those reporters to interview her. Yuzi was very nervous, because this was the first time that she had been interviewed by so many reporters in front of so many people. Reporter, Miss Yu, how did you get the chance to join Miss Gu's company? Yuzi, well, I ran a gown store in the beginning, but it wasn't very profitable, and I could just make ends meet. Although I loved my designs, customers had different opinions. One of my friends brought Miss Gu to have a look in my store. That was how I got to know Miss Gu. I felt quite honored that Miss Gu appreciated my designs and even hired me as the manager as well as designer of Charm. At the same time, I'm still the founder of Charm. Reporter, it seems that Miss Gu is very considerate and didn't deprive you of your benefits. Miss Yu, does that mean that you also hold shares of Charm? Yuzi, yes. Miss Gu is a very generous boss, but I can't tell you the specific number. Since Yuzi wasn't willing to tell them, the reporters didn't ask further. They weren't entertainment reporters or paparazzi who would do everything for gossip. Reporter, Miss Yu, do you have confidence in Charm now? Yuzi, of course. I'm very confident now. Reporter, great. We're also looking forward to seeing your designs, Miss Yu. The interview was finally over, and they went back to their seats. The runway show was about to begin as well. As the music played, the first model walked out. She was wearing a creamy white strapless dress with thin pleats at the hem waving with each of her footsteps. She looked like a fairy stepping over waves under the dim yellowish light. There was a creamy white jade pendant in the shape of wings hanging under her neck. It was the medium high-level glutinous rice type jade. The pair of earrings she was wearing were also made of glutinous rice type jade in the shape of a wing. The bracelet on her right wrist was engraved with beautiful patterns. The audience was staring at the big screen at the back of the stage, so they could see the jade jewelry clearly. People's eyes lit up when the first model showed up. This model was as pure as a fairy. Many people were talking about the gown and jade jewelry under the stage. The second model walked out dressed in a floor-length, sapphire blue dress with its long train dragging on the ground. The waistline was extremely thin, and it was outlined with silver-white patterns. The model looked like elegant blue and white porcelain when she walked by. This model was wearing a set of violet jade jewelry to show elegance. The third model stepped out in a purple gown with a long fishtail train. The gown was shining in the light, because the fabric was super smooth silk, which accentuated the model's attractive body shape. She looked like a noble woman. This model was wearing a set of jade jewelry of the glass type, which stood for nobility. Every model left a deep impression on the audience. The gowns of Charm and jade jewelry of Jade Beauty Jewelry gained a lot of attention from the rich ladies in the audience. Gu Ning presented 10 sets of jade jewelry of different types at today's runway show, including glutinous rice, violet, blood red, the king's green, full issue and so on. Wow, I didn't see these sets of jade jewelry in the store just then. I just bought 2 sets, and now I want more. The red set is especially beautiful. I love the green set. It looks like something worn by the nobility. It is. The green set is made of the king's green, which is the most expensive jade type. Oh, it's the king's green. No wonder it has an air of nobility. Those gowns of charm are so beautiful too. I couldn't wait to book several of them. Exactly. I think the gowns match the jade jewelry quite well. Although many people only like international brands, I think the design and quality of a brand matters more than its fame. I agree. I don't care whether the brand is famous or not. I only wear whatever I like. All in all, jade jewelry and gowns were luxuries, not necessities, so only a small amount of people could afford them. The runway show didn't last long, and it was over after only 20 minutes, which was also the end of the release conference. The release conference was over, but there was still a banquet after that. Guests moved to the banquet hall and some left beforehand. It was almost 1 p.m. and was a little late for lunch. Once the guests were all seated, dishes were placed on the tables within 10 minutes. After the banquet, the guests left one after another. Gu Ning and Leng Xiaoting walked Master Tang and Master Lei to their cars, then went back to meet their friends. Boss, I know that you're very outstanding, but what you did today still amazed me, Pan Zhiwei said in great excitement, staring straight at Gu Ning. Leng Xiaoting gave him a cold glance, and Pan Zhiwei calmed down at once. The others also complimented Gu Ning with admiration. Miss Gu, you're really unbelievable. Miss Gu, I like charm gowns very much. When will it open for customization? Can I book 2 sets? Tong Jiayao said. She wasn't flattering Gu Ning, she really liked charms gowns. Can I book a set too? Xu Yuanjin asked in a hurry. Gu Ning smiled. The flagship store of Charm is located at number 2-36, second floor, Zone B, Fengshan Shopping Mall. Gu Ning understood that Tong Jiayao already gave up the idea that she wanted to steal Leng Xiaoting, so Gu Ning wouldn't mind making friends with her. Tang Xinrui seized this chance and joined their discussion at this moment. Miss Gu, nice to meet you. My name is Tang Xinrui, and I just read many pieces of news about you. It's so shocking. Let alone a young girl at your age, even we can't achieve half of what you've done. Although Tang Xinrui was complimenting Gu Ning, she wasn't pleasing her on purpose, because it wouldn't leave a good impression on her. It was the first time that Gu Ning had met Tang Xinrui, so she treated her politely. Thanks. Gu Ning said. I also want to book a set of gowns from Charm, I love the 5th set. Tang Xinrui said. You're welcome in our store, Gu Ning said with a smile. Boss, do you have any free time today? Pan Zhiwei asked. I'm sorry. I'm very busy today, Gu Ning said. She knew that Pan Zhiwei must want to invite her to have fun with him and his friends. All right, it's fine, Pan Zhiwei said. After a while, the others all left, and only Leng Xiaoting, Gu Ning, Gu Man, Chao Wenxin, Su Jinchen and Xian Bei were left in the hall. Check out LTSTVL on novl/bin.cm. Chao Wenxin laid an arm on Gu Ning's shoulder and said, Ning Ning, given our family connection, shouldn't you send me a set of gown as a gift? You can have as many sets as you want. Gu Ning said without hesitation. Haha, great. Chao Wenxin was very satisfied. If you're not busy today, why don't you have some afternoon tea in my place? Gu Ning invited her friends to her house. The release conference was already over, and Zhou Xinghong would be in charge of the rest. She had just made an excuse to decline Pan Zhiwei's invitation earlier. It wasn't because she disliked hanging out with them, but because she had to treat her friends well today.
Why not?
Chao Wenxin was the first one who agreed.
Why are you so excited?
Our houses are connected, Gu Ning said. Chao Wenxin was struck dumb for a second, then realized that it was true. Afterwards, a group of them went to their cars. However, just when Gu Ning walked near to her car, a picture flashed by her eyes all of a sudden. In the picture, Tang Haifeng's car was knocked over in a tunnel, and it exploded at once. Gu Ning was scared, but did her best to calm down. I suddenly remembered that I have to go to deal with an emergency now. You can leave before me, and Shouting will go with me. Gaoyi, Xiaoya, please send my mother back.
Sure, Gaoyi and Xiaoya said.
The others didn't ask further since it was an emergency. Su Jinchen, Si Ming and Xian Bei, however, noticed Gu Ning's unusual reaction, and they felt worried about her. However, when they thought of Leng Shouting and Gu Ning's outstanding ability, they knew that they would be fine. After that, Gu Ning got into her car without delay. Leng Shouting stood nearest to Gu Ning, so he noticed her panic. He knew that it had to be something serious, and followed her, getting in the car. To the Tang family's house. I had a premonition that my grandpa will be in great danger, Gu Ning said once they were in the car. Hearing that, Leng Shouting started the car and drove to the Tang family's house. Gu Ning, at the same time, called Tang Haifeng. However, the line was busy, so Gu Ning failed to contact Tang Haifeng. Gu Ning was anxious, because Tang Haifeng would be dead once the car exploded. No matter how much magical power she had, it would be useless. At this moment, Leng Shouting didn't know what he should say to comfort Gu Ning, so he focused on driving as fast as he could. Unfortunately, there was a lot of traffic on the roads, so Leng Shouting was very nervous. On the way, Gu Ning called Tang Haifeng again and again while she was using her jade eyes to search for his car. The line was still busy, and Gu Ning couldn't help but swear at the person who was talking with Tang Haifeng on the phone for so long. After they had driven a long distance, Gu Ning finally saw Tang Haifeng's car 500 meters away, but they were waiting for the traffic lights to turn green and couldn't move among the cars. Afterwards, Gu Ning found a shortcut, but the car wasn't able to drive there. You can drive the car to chase them, and I'll run over first, Gu Ning said, and jumped out of the car before Leng Shouting could respond. Since Gu Ning already made up her mind, Leng Shouting wouldn't stop her. The moment Gu Ning got out of the car, she dashed across the lanes as fast as she could, and ran to the shortcut like lightning, which shocked everyone around her. When she ran by other drivers in cars, those drivers shivered as if a cold wind just blew by. Gu Ning's dangerous behavior also drew criticism. Why is she running so fast on the lanes? It's so dangerous. What if she's hit by a car? Gu Ning had no time to care about their criticism, but was determined to catch up with Tang Haifeng. She was very fast, but Tang Haifeng was moving in a car at high speed, and there was a distance between them two. Gu Ning failed after running for a while, and Leng Shouting's car already drove to her side, so she got in it at once, and chased after them. When Gu Ning sat in the car, she called Tang Haifeng once more, but his phone was turned off, probably because it was running out of power. Gu Ning almost swore. They soon left the center of the city, and there wasn't much traffic on the roads now. Gu Ning saw Tang Haifeng's car not far ahead when the tunnel approached near, and she also noticed the strange movements of the car behind Tang Haifeng's. Gu Ning's car drove into the tunnel and they had almost caught up with Tang Haifeng's. However, the car behind Tang Haifeng's car sped up all of a sudden, and it seemed like it was going to knock forward. Gu Ning realized that the car was the cause of the terrible accident. Shouting, "Knock the front car aside," Gu Ning said. Leng Shouting also noticed the strange movement of the car, so he accelerated without hesitation. However, because of the distance, Leng Shouting was a second later than the front car. The front car knocked Tang Haifeng's car just a second before Leng Xiaoting's car knocked it. Tang Haifeng's car was on the right side, and the car hit its left side because the fuel tank was set left. Leng Xiaoting directly knocked through from the middle and forced the car to move away from Tang Haifeng's car. In that case, the heavy hit Tang Haifeng's car suffered was alleviated a lot, and the fuel tank was also safe, so it wouldn't explode. However, it still caused damage, and Gu Ning got out of her car at once and went to check on Tang Haifeng's condition. Tang Haifeng had already passed out in the rear seat. The driver and the bodyguard on the front passenger seat were also injured, but they were still awake. Gu Ning knocked on the car window of the driver's seat without delay. The driver rolled the car window down and was surprised to see Gu Ning. "Open the door now. My grandpa fainted," Gu Ning said. Tang Haifeng was an aged man after all, and his life could be in great danger now. Although the driver was confused as to why Gu Ning was there, he opened the car door the moment he heard that Tang Haifeng had passed out. Gu Ning got inside and checked Tang Haifeng's breath. Luckily, he was still breathing, and Gu Ning was relieved. She immediately put her magical power into his body and said to the driver at the same time, "Call the police and the ambulance now." "Oh, right." The driver took out his phone at once. Leng Xiaoting also got out and went to check the driver's condition in the other car. The driver was seriously injured and passed out too. The tunnel was very broad with 3 traffic lanes, and there was 1 lane left clear for vehicles to pass by. Many cars stopped around them, but didn't dare to come near. Tang Haifeng soon woke up after receiving Gu Ning's magical power. Seeing Gu Ning, he was surprised. "Ning, what happened?" Tang Haifeng didn't know what had happened to him yet. "Grandpa, someone just hit your car on purpose, and I think it's a dirty trick of our enemy. Please pretend to be unconscious for now, and we can turn this dirty trick to our own use. Please don't open your eyes until I tell you to do so," Gu Ning said with a serious face. Hearing that, Tang Haifeng was annoyed, but wasn't surprised, because he knew that his enemy would take action sooner or later. "Sure," Tang Haifeng said. Leng Xiaoting walked to Gu Ning's side and said, "The driver in the car knocked his head and fainted. I found his cards and phone, but I can't use his phone without the password." Gu Ning took the driver's ID card and had a look of it. The driver was named Xiang Dongping. He was 43 years old and came from a village around City B. The other cards were mainly his bank cards. "Grandpa, please have a look. Do you know or have you met this person?" Gu Ning gave the ID card to Tang Haifeng. "No, I don't know who he is," Tang Haifeng said. Gu Ning then took a picture of his ID card before she called Kay. "I'll send you a picture of an ID card along with the information of a bank card. Help me find out whether the person is the owner of the bank card and the transaction records of it. I also want to know the person's phone numbers and recent call records along with the identities of his contacts." Discover NW Chapter SNN0EL by.com. Although the driver must have hidden his real identity before he did this bad thing, it was necessary to investigate his background. Hearing what Gu Ning had said on the phone, the others felt surprised and were curious about the identity of the person who was able to find out so much secret information. 5 minutes later, 2 ambulances arrived. Although Xiang Dongping aimed to murder Tang Haifeng, the interrogation and sentence could only go on when he was awake. Seeing that Master Tang was in danger, the medical staff felt quite nervous in case anything bad happened to him. Gu Ning and Tang Haifeng's bodyguard followed him, leaving for the hospital, while Leng Xiaoting was left waiting for the police. Gu Ning didn't call Tang Yunhang until she was in the ambulance. She told him to keep it a secret from Tang Yunfan for now, in case Tang Yunfan ran out to visit Tang Haifeng. Gu Ning also called Tang Yunrong and told her the same thing. Since there was medical staff in the ambulance, Gu Ning couldn't directly tell them that Tang Haifeng was fine. When Tang Yunheng heard the bad news, he left the government building and went to the hospital in a hurry. He also informed Jiang Lihua at the same time. Tang Yunrong and Chao Ruihua arrived at the hospital a while later. Tang Weiyong, as the mastermind behind this car accident, also received the news, because he had sent someone to follow behind. However, in order not to be discovered, the person followed far behind, so he didn't know the specific situation. For example, he didn't know that the third car hit the front car on purpose, and it wasn't an accident. He only knew that Tang Haifeng passed out but didn't know whether Tang Haifeng was injured or not. He also failed to recognize Gu Ning. Tang Weiyong was very mad that the third car had ruined his plan. Although Tang Haifeng passed out, he had no idea whether he was injured or not. If Tang Haifeng was fine, his plan would be meaningless. The Tang family wasn't dumb, and they would soon find out that it was a scheme. Tang Weiyong was confident that Xiang Dongping wouldn't betray him. Even if Xiang Dongping betrayed him, it wouldn't affect him, but he had to face the fact that his plan was a failure this time. All Tang Weiyong wanted to hear now was that Tang Haifeng was dead or seriously injured. In that case, Tang Haifeng would have to leave his job in the Tang family's business group. Tang Weiyong would then have a better chance to take over. The traffic police arrived after the two ambulances had left for about 2 minutes. When the traffic police found out that it was Master Tang's car and driver, they took this accident very seriously. Tang Haifeng's driver didn't tell them that it was a scheme before there was solid proof, because the traffic police would feel stressed or threatened by the Tang family's influence. Given the Tang family's high social status, it was very easy for them to influence the result. If so, nobody would know the real result. In addition, they weren't in a hurry to know the result, so they would let the police do their work. A traffic policeman asked at first, "Did he drive under the influence?" "No," Tang Haifeng's driver answered. Afterwards, the traffic police checked the driving recorder of Tang Haifeng's car and saw that the car that caused the accident started to accelerate after entering the tunnel. It didn't change lanes, instead it went straight to hit Tang Haifeng's car, which was very strange. It was highly possible that it was a scheme. In the video, Lin Xiaoting's car also accelerated behind the car that caused the accident, which was also very abnormal. Therefore, a traffic policeman asked Lin Xiaoting, "Why did you speed up all of a sudden as well?" "I have a close relationship with Master Tang, and I did that because I noticed the strange movements of the car that caused this crash. In case Master Tang's car would explode, I sped up to force the car to move away," Lin Xiaoting said. Hearing that, everyone admired Lin Xiaoting's courage, because he could also be hurt in the accident. Moreover, the car he drove cost more than 2 million yuan and now it was damaged. Since Lin Xiaoting had a close relationship with Tang Haifeng, the traffic police didn't ask further. After that, the traffic police went to check the car which caused this crash to see whether there were other security problems. They found that its brakes were broken, which meant that this car accident could be caused by the broken brakes. Of course, they needed to conduct a full-scale investigation into the crash. In the hospital, Tang Haifeng had to take the examination since Gu Ning decided to turn this dirty trick to her own use. At the same time, they didn't hide the truth that Tang Haifeng had been caught by a car accident so that the mastermind behind it would show up. If they didn't know who their enemy was, they couldn't figure out a way to deal with him. Your favorite ovals at n/vl/bin.com. Xiang Dongping was hit heavily at the back of his head, so he was still unconscious. After the medical examination, the doctor said that Tang Haifeng was fine and that he would wake up soon. When Tang Haifeng had just been moved into a patient room, Tang Yunheng arrived. Tang Yunheng was the secretary of a provincial committee, and people were familiar with his face in the news. The moment he showed up in the hospital, many people recognized him and felt quite stressed when he walked by, because he had a strong air of power. "Ning Ning, how is your grandpa now?" Tang Yunheng asked in anxiety once he walked in the patient room. The doctor said Grandpa is fine, and he'll wake up soon, Gu Ning said, but didn't tell him the truth right away. Before long, Tang Yinrong and Chao Ruihua came. When they asked about Tang Haifeng's condition, Gu Ning gave them the same answer. Within several minutes, Jian Lihua arrived as well. Since they were all here, Gu Ning decided to tell them the truth now. Secretary Li, Bodyguard Lin, please guard at the door, and don't allow anyone to walk in without my permission. Gu Ning gave an order to Tang Haifeng's bodyguard and Tang Yinhong's secretary. Although she wasn't in the position to order them to do something for her, they were in a special situation now. Tang Haifeng's bodyguard walked out, but Tang Yinhong's security guard stood still, because he only followed Tang Yinhong's orders. Tang Yinhang nodded at him, and he walked out. When they were both gone and the door was closed, Gu Ning said, "Grandpa, please open your eyes now." Hearing that, Tang Haifeng opened his eyes at once, which surprised everyone in the room. What's going on here? Didn't Gu Ning tell them that Master Tang was still unconscious? Actually, it's an attempted murder, not an accident. In order to find out who the mastermind behind it is, Grandpa must pretend to be unconscious for a few days like what my father is doing now. We can spread the news that Grandpa is in danger, and I think that our enemy will take action in a couple of days, Gu Ning said. Hearing that it was an attempted murder, they were all mad. Our family will encounter trouble in the following days, but it's necessary for us to go through it in order to get rid of more trouble, Gu Ning added. At this moment, Leng Xiaoting and 2 traffic policemen arrived at the hospital. Tang Haifeng's driver went to deal with the car with the traffic police, while Leng Xiaoting left his car to He Qiming. Leng Xiaoting's car was damaged, but it wasn't very serious, so it could be fixed. Although he didn't lack money, he wouldn't waste money either. The car cost over 2 million yuan, and it only took 500,000 yuan to fix it. When they came to the patient room, they were stopped by Tang Haifeng's bodyguard. Leng Xiaoting understood that it must be Gu Ning's order, so he accepted it. The 2 traffic policemen recognized Tang Yinhong's secretary, so they didn't dare to disobey the order. In the patient room, Gu Ning finished the discussion with the others, and opened the door after Tang Haifeng closed his eyes again and lay on the bed. "Nice to see you, Secretary Tang and Director Chao." Seeing Tang Yinhang and Chao Ruihua, the 2 traffic policemen greeted them with great respect. This was the first time that they had met those 2 important figures face to face. "Secretary Tang, we come here to learn the condition of Master Tang," a traffic policeman said. "Sure," Tang Yinhang said, then turned to his secretary. "Go find the doctor." His secretary then went to find the doctor. In the meantime, a traffic policeman reported to Tang Yinhang on the car crash. Although it was an attempted murder, they didn't have solid proof to prove it. After all, the brakes were broken, so it seemed to be an accident. "Secretary Tang, I think that we can only wait until the driver who caused the crash wakes up," the other traffic policeman said. Tang Yinhang nodded and didn't say anything further. After a short while, the doctor came and told the 2 traffic policemen about Tang Haifeng's condition. After hearing the result, the 2 traffic policemen left. "I'm afraid that we can't keep it a secret for too long, because many people will come to visit Father. We must arrange for more guards to protect Father's safety in case someone will try to kill Father in the hospital," Tang Yinhang said. After that, several ace bodyguards came over to guard at the door. Jian Lihua and Tang Yinrong stayed to take care of Tang Haifeng, and the others left. Tang Haifeng was fine now after all, so there was no need for all of them to stay. Jian Lihua and Tang Yinrong weren't busy, so they were able to stay in the hospital to take care of Tang Haifeng, but both Chao Ruihua and Tang Yinhang were very busy. Gu Ning and Leng Xiaoting went back to Huafu Hills together. Explore Ta-Ti stories at no/l//bin.cm. On the way, Gu Ning called Tang Yinfan and told him about what had happened. Hearing the bad news, Tang Yinfan was astonished as well as worried. Gu Ning also told him her plan and Tang Yinfan agreed, so he had to keep on pretending to be unconscious. When Gu Ning was back in her house, she didn't mention the car crash at all, because Tang Haifeng was safe now. She just chatted and played games with her friends for fun. When it was almost 5 p.m., Gu Man invited Gu Ning's friends to stay for dinner, so they all stayed. The release conference of Jade Beauty Jewelry and Charm was soon reported by the media, and it attracted a lot of attention from the public. Countless internet users left many comments on it. Those who worked for Gu Ning also reposted the pictures and videos of the release conference on Weibo. When Gu Ning's fans watched her short speech at the conference, they were all impressed. OMG, Goddess Gu, are you sure that you're just 18? I think that she's a really successful businesswoman. Goddess Gu, I believe that Jade Beauty Jewelry will be super popular, and its designers along with carvers will be household names too. Jade Beauty Jewelry is already very popular now. There were many haters too on the internet. I think Gu Ning thinks too highly of herself. Although Jade Beauty Jewelry has gained some fame, nobody knows whether it can become a high-end brand. It's much easier said than done. Exactly. She's just bragging. However, once the two haters appeared, they were attacked by Gu Ning's fans. Are you insane? How do you know that it can't happen? They can't achieve anything, so they're jealous of others' achievements. Goddess Gu is just 18 and she already owns over 100 million yuan in wealth. Can any of those haters do that? Even those international business groups, like Shinsher Group, Jinlin Group and Tanghuang Group, have a good relationship with Goddess Gu. I believe Goddess Gu is much more outstanding than her peers. Many internet users didn't know that Master Tang and Master Lei had attended the opening ceremony of Gu Ning's jewelry store, and they were all astonished when they found out. To their surprise, Gu Ning was able to know so many important figures. Not only Shinsher Group, Jinlin Group and Tanghuang Group, but the businesses of the two biggest gangs in this country also showed up. Gu Ning's business partners were so powerful. Find the new ST-ovals on n/velben.com. When they watched the reporter's interview with Gu Ning, they were all excited. When Zhou Xinghong told his story, they all admired Gu Ning for her kindness. After that, it was Su Tongnua's interview. Goddess Su, fighting. I support you. Me too. When they heard Su Tongnua's answer to the question about why Lu Zhan had been shut out, the internet users held two different opinions. Some were supportive and agreed with Su Tongnua on her answer. Others, however, thought that Su Tongnua was too innocent to know that power was beyond the law in today's society. Although they didn't know who the important figure Lu Zhan had annoyed was, the person must be very powerful because he could shut Lu Zhan out, given that Lu Zhan had been a very famous director back then. At the same time, some internet users also believed that Fanghua Entertainment had the ability to solve the problem since the company dared to sign Lu Zhan. After a while, Yu Zi was the interviewee. After hearing Yu Zi's answer, many internet users became Gu Ning's fans, because Gu Ning was really a good idol in their eyes. Pictures of Charm's gowns were everywhere on the internet, and most people liked them. Lin Tianyu and Zhao Xiaoxian just got off a plane when Jade Beauty Jewelry and Charm became the hot topics again on the internet. While they were waiting for their baggage, Zhao Xiaoxian received a message from her close female friend. Zhao Xiaoxuan's friend, Xiaoxian, have you watched the video of the release conference of Jade Beauty Jewelry and Charm yet? Yu Zi is the designer for Charm. Website link. What? Yu Zi is the designer for Charm. Zhao Xiaoxian exclaimed in shock and opened the website link at once. Hearing that, Lin Tianyu was surprised too, and couldn't believe his ears. They had seen the ads for Jade Beauty Jewelry and Charm and also heard that Yuzi was involved in them, but they didn't know that Yuzi was the designer and a shareholder of Charm. Before Lin Tianyu could ask Zhao Xiaoxian for the answer, Zhao Xiaoxian played the video on her phone. It was Yuzi's interview. After watching it, both Lin Tianyu and Zhao Xiaoxian were astonished and couldn't accept the fact. Yuzi was really the designer and a shareholder of Charm. How was it possible? They refused to believe it. Although Charm was a newly established brand, it quickly became popular because its gowns were very attractive. Even Zhao Xiaoxian was a fan of it. However, Yuzi was the designer and a shareholder of Charm, and Zhao Xiaoxian couldn't accept it. In Zhao Xiaoxian's eyes, Yuzi was and should always be inferior to her. Lin Tianyu, on the other hand, felt quite regretful now. He regretted that he had dumped Yuzi. If he had known that Yuzi would be so successful now, he wouldn't have done that. If he was still Yuzi's boyfriend, he would be able to know Miss Gu, who was the boss of Jade Beauty Jewelry. After all, Jade Beauty Jewelry had over 100 million yuan in assets, while the Zhao family only owned dozens of millions of yuan in wealth. Seeing the ads for Charm, Lin Tianyu believed that Yuzi could become even richer than his family. In the video, the runway show began, and many internet users complimented the gowns. Wow, the gowns are so beautiful. I must book a set for my birthday. I'll be stunning that day. I love the first set. My mother booked the 5th set along with the jade jewelry. Your family is so rich. I want to book a set too, but I'm too poor to afford it. The gown costs at least dozens of thousands of yuan each. I think only rich people can afford it. Seeing the positive comments, Zhao Xiaoxian's face twisted in anger and jealousy. She gripped her phone, like she was going to crumble it. Why? Why could Yuzi, instead of her, become the designer of Charm? Yuzi and Zhao Xiaoxian were classmates in college, which meant that Zhao Xiaoxian majored in clothing design as well. However, she was born in a rich family, so she never thought to rely on herself. Besides, she never studied hard in university, so she didn't have many skills either. When she saw that Yuzi became a successful designer, she felt quite jealous of her. At this moment, a popular Weibo blogger sent out a remark on Charm gowns. Jason V, a famous clothing designer in Paris OMG. These gowns are so beautiful. Once this remark was out, internet users burst into discussion. Oh, is he the famous clothing designer in Paris, Jason? It wasn't a question actually, but it was too shocking for the internet user to believe that it was true. Jason was a famous international clothing designer of wedding gowns, and he seldom complimented other designers, but Yuzi was an exception. I think he is. Oh, I'm so excited to see Jason. Me too. My major is clothing design, and Jason is my idol. Is Jason complimenting Yuzi? Yes. He is. Jason V, a famous clothing designer in Paris. You're right. I am complimenting Miss Yu because I think her designs are very creative, and I'd love to teach her more skills if she wants. As a famous international designer, Jason was able to distinguish the good designs from bad ones at a glance. It seemed he really appreciated Yuzi's designs. Although he had liked many works of many designers before, Yuzi was the only one he was interested in and was willing to teach her more. Oh my! I can't believe my eyes now. Jason is willing to teach Yuzi his skills. I can't believe it either. Yuzi is so lucky. Seeing the comments on the internet, Zhao Xiaoxian almost smashed her phone to the ground. Why? Why was Yuzi able to win the attention of Jason, who was a famous international designer? She could design gowns too. Zhao Xiaoxian didn't think that Yuzi was better than her. Lin Tianyu, on the other hand, couldn't feel more regretful now. He made up his mind to get Yuzi back. He was a self-centered man, so he didn't believe that Yuzi would reject him. Lin Tianyu was really shameless. Self-centered people never reflected on themselves, and they only cared about their own feelings. Seeing the absent look on Lin Tianyu's face, a thought dawned on Zhao Xiaoxian and she panicked a little. She knew clearly that Lin Tianyu still liked Yuzi and he had only dumped Yuzi because of Yuzi's poor family background. Lin Tianyu accepted her because she was born in a rich family, which would benefit him. However, everything had changed now, and he had the idea to get Yuzi back. No! She would never allow it to happen. Lin Tianyu, are you thinking of Yuzi? Do you want to get her back? Zhao Xiaoxian questioned him in anger. Hearing that, Lin Tianyu frowned, but refused to admit it. No, I'm not. Even if he was going to get Yuzi back, he wouldn't let Zhao Xiaoxian know his plan, at least not before he succeeded. He wasn't willing to lose both women at the same time. Lin Tianyu was engaging in wishful thinking. Really? Zhao Xiaoxian didn't believe him. Swear an oath of loyalty to me right now. If you still want to get Yuzi back, you'll be hit by a car. Lin Tianyu wasn't in a good mood and got angry at once after hearing Zhao Xiaoxian's words. Are you crazy? Why should I swear an oath of loyalty to you? Do you want me to be hit by a car? Lin Tianyu's voice was very loud, so it attracted a lot of attention from people around them. The onlookers had a bad impression of Zhao Xiaoxian because of her vicious words. What she said was too much, especially after Lin Tianyu had denied it. Let alone the men, even the women disliked her behavior. Therefore, people all looked at Zhao Xiaoxian with disdain. Zhao Xiaoxian didn't care about others' attention now, and she was in a rage as well after Lin Tianyu shouted at her. If you don't dare to do it, then it means that you still love her. Am I right? I've done nothing to hurt you. Why do I have to swear the oath to persuade you to believe me? Don't you think that what you just said is too unkind? Lin Tianyu raised his voice. I'll never joke about my life. Onlookers all agreed with Lin Tianyu. I hate that kind of woman the most. She's so self-centered and vicious. Exactly. Does she think that she is the queen? If my girlfriend was so unreasonable, I'd dump her right away. A couple should trust each other in a relationship. People were all criticizing Zhao Xiaoxian. However, Zhao Xiaoxian didn't feel ashamed at all, but was mad at them. Shut your mouths. It's none of your business. Stop criticizing me, or you'll be hit by cars, she shouted at the onlookers in anger. Find new stories on nov/elbin.com. Hearing Zhao Xiaoxian's unkind words, people were all annoyed. Although they did criticize Zhao Xiaoxian in public, what she had done and said were truly malicious. Enough! Lin Tianyu snapped at Zhao Xiaoxian, which scared her. Zhao Xiaoxian, couldn't you be kind to others? You'll pay for what you've done. After that, Lin Tianyu turned around walking away, leaving Zhao Xiaoxian and her baggage behind. Zhao Xiaoxian had already embarrassed him in a public place, and he couldn't tolerate it anymore. Lin Tianyu, come back right now. Zhao Xiaoxian panicked, but she hadn't gotten her baggage yet, so she couldn't leave. Her suitcase was filled with luxuries she bought from abroad. Lin Tianyu, however, ignored her. Seeing that, Zhao Xiaoxian was mad and threatened. Lin Tianyu, if you dare walk away from me today, we're done. Hearing that, Lin Tianyu stopped for a second, but just for a second, then strode away. Although he might lose a lot if he broke up with Zhao Xiaoxian, he couldn't stand Zhao Xiaoxian's temper anymore. She was merely a self-indulgent girl with princess syndrome. In the beginning, Lin Tianyu accepted it for the purpose of taking over the Zhao family's properties, but now he gave up upon thinking of Yuzi. When onlookers saw Lin Tianyu leaving without looking back at all, they all cheered. She deserves it. No man wants to marry such a woman and argue with her for the rest of their life. Indeed. She isn't very pretty after all. In fact, Zhao Shaoxian wasn't a beauty, and she also had a bad temper. If it hadn't been for her family's wealth, Lin Tianyu wouldn't have agreed to be her boyfriend. Zhao Shaoxian was in a rage. Right at this moment, her suitcase came out, so she picked it up and left at once. Zhao Shaoxian thought that Lin Tianyu would be waiting for her at the parking lot, and he would apologize to her as usual. If so, she would forgive him. However, she was wrong, and Lin Tianyu along with his car was nowhere to be found. Zhao Shaoxian was anxious now, because she really loved Lin Tianyu, otherwise she wouldn't have hurt her close friend, Yuzi, to get him. Even though she found out that Lin Tianyu was only willing to be her boyfriend because of her family background, she didn't mind it at all. All she wanted was Lin Tianyu. She was afraid to lose him, so she always kept a closer eye on him. Once any women approached him, she would argue with him and chase the other women away. Although she fought with Lin Tianyu many times because of it, Lin Tianyu would compromise in the end. Therefore, she never realized that Lin Tianyu disliked her unreasonable and immature actions. In addition, she didn't mean it when she said that she was going to break up with him if he walked away from her today. As long as he apologized, she would forgive him. Nevertheless, he left without giving her a glance, which was totally unacceptable in her eyes. Zhao Shaoxian felt embarrassed to call Lin Tianyu, so she called Lin Tianyu's mother. She hoped that Lin Tianyu's mother would help her and tell Lin Tianyu to apologize to her. In that case, she would forgive him, and they could get back together. Shaoxian, are you home now? Come and join us for a meal. Mrs. Lin was very happy to receive Zhao Shaoxian's call, because she was very satisfied with her future daughter-in-law. To be specific, Mrs. Lin was actually satisfied with Zhao Shaoxian's family background, because Zhao Shaoxian wasn't beautiful and had a bad temper. Anyway, Zhao Shaoxian didn't dare lose her temper in front of Mrs. Lin, so Mrs. Lin turned a blind eye to it. Yuzi was much prettier than Zhao Shaoxian, and she was very gentle. However, she was born in an ordinary family, so Mrs. Lin didn't want her to be with her son. Mrs. Lin was a snobbish person as well after all. Well, Tianyu abandoned me at the airport and drove away. Zhao Shaoxian blamed Lin Tianyu on the phone with Mrs. Lin. She didn't sound aggressive at all now, but aggrieved. Zhao Shaoxian wasn't dumb, and she knew that she had to please Mrs. Lin if she wanted to marry Lin Tianyu. What? Tianyu drove away alone? Did you argue again? Mrs. Lin was surprised. No matter why they had argued, Mrs. Lin thought that it must have been Lin Tianyu's fault. Yes. I just asked him whether he still likes Yuzi because we were watching a video of her just then. I asked him to swear an oath of loyalty to me, but he refused and drove away alone. Zhao Shaoxian said, but didn't tell Mrs. Lin many details. What? Does he still like Yuzi? Hearing that, Mrs. Lin couldn't stay calm, because she hated Yuzi. Shaoxian, don't worry. I'll never allow them to be together again. You're the one and only future daughter-in-law of our family. Take a taxi to your home, and I'll call him right now. Mrs. Lin said. Thanks. Zhao Shaoxian said, then hung up. She was confident that Mrs. Lin would side with her. After hanging up the call with Zhao Shaoxian, Mrs. Lin called Lin Tianyu. Lin Tianyu was on his way out of the airport and he didn't think there was anything wrong with his behavior. Once he answered his mother's call, Mrs. Lin snapped at him, Tianyu, what's wrong with you? How could you abandon Xiaoxian alone at the airport? Tell me, do you still like Yuzi? Your father and I will never allow you to get her back. Xiaoxian is the future daughter-in-law of our family, unless you can find a girl better than her. If Xiaoxian heard what Mrs. Lin said to Lin Tianyu, she would feel very hurt because she was just a B-plan in Mrs. Lin's eyes. Did Xiaoxian tell on me? Lin Tianyu sneered. It wasn't a surprise because Xiaoxian did that every time they had an argument. Tell me, do you still like Yuzi? Mrs. Lin asked again. Yes. Lin Tianyu admitted with alacrity. Lin Tianyu, your father and I will never allow you to be together with her. Mrs. Lin warned him in anger. What if Yuzi is a better choice than Xiaoxian? Lin Tianyu asked. No way. I know that Yuzi is prettier than Xiaoxian, but she's too poor, Mrs. Lin said with disdain. Maybe she's poorer than Xiaoxian now, but she's going to be very successful sooner or later, Lin Tianyu said. I don't care. I just want you to apologize to Xiaoxian right now, and you two better get married as soon as possible, Mrs. Lin said in a domineering tone. Yuzi now is the designer and a shareholder of Charm, Lin Tianyu said, feeling sad. What? Mrs. Lin was shocked. She had seen the ads for Jade Beauty Jewelry and Charm, but she had no idea that Yuzi was the designer and shareholder of Charm now. If so, Yuzi would be very rich in the future. Is it real? Mrs. Lin couldn't believe it. You can watch the video of its release conference on the internet, Lin Tianyu said with impatience, then hung up. After hanging up the call with Lin Tianyu, Mrs. Lin totally forgot Xiaoxian, but surfed the internet to watch the release conference of Jade Beauty Jewelry and Charm. When she found out that Yuzi was really the designer and a shareholder of Charm, Mrs. Lin realized that Yuzi was different now, and was very likely to be successful in the near future. At this moment, Mrs. Lin hesitated on what to do next. Although Xiaoxian was the only child in her family, and Lin Tianyu could take over her family properties in the future, Xiaoxian's family was far from being a super-rich family. On the contrary, Jade Beauty Jewelry and Charm became well-known, high-end brands now, and they were also developing fast. Most importantly, since Yuzi worked for Charm, she had to know many important figures. If Lin Tianyu could be with Yuzi, Yuzi would help the Lin family as well. In that case, the Lin family could be prosperous. Thinking of that, Mrs. Lin called Lin Tianyu back at once. CHCK for US TIRIs on no/v/l/bin.c0m. Tianyu, since you still like Yuzi, you can get her back, and we won't stop you this time, Mrs. Lin said, like it was Yuzi's honor that they were willing to accept her. It was really ridiculous, because Yuzi had already moved on. In Mrs. Lin's eyes, Yuzi would be more than willing to marry Lin Tianyu. The Lin family was so selfish and self-centered. With his mother's approval, Lin Tianyu was thrilled and more confident that he could get Yuzi back. He called Yuzi without hesitation, then realized that Yuzi had already blacklisted him. He then searched for the address of Charm and drove there. Unfortunately, Charm was closed today. Lin Tianyu could only go back and come again tomorrow. Xiaoxian didn't receive Mrs. Lin's or Lin Tianyu's call after a long time, but she was reluctant to call them again. Seeing Xiaoxian being so upset, Mrs. Zhao asked, "Xiaoxian, what happened?" Xiaoxian told her mother everything, including details. However, Mrs. Zhao didn't think that it was Xiaoxian's fault, but blamed Lin Tianyu for everything. What? How dare he do that to you? I must call him right now. Saying that, Mrs. Zhao called Lin Tianyu. Although Xiaoxian wasn't willing to call Lin Tianyu, she wouldn't stop her mother from doing so, because she was also curious about what Lin Tianyu wanted to do now. To their surprise, Lin Tianyu refused to answer Mrs. Zhao's call, which annoyed Mrs. Zhao. "Mom, call Mrs. Lin. I just called her and she promised to help me, but I haven't heard from her yet," Zhao Xiaoxian said. Hearing that, Mrs. Zhao was displeased and called Mrs. Lin without delay. When Mrs. Lin saw Mrs. Zhao's call, she knew that it had to be because of Zhao Xiaoxian, so she answered it. "Hi, Mrs. Zhao," Mrs. Lin said. She sounded as polite as usual. Although she supported Lin Tianyu to get Yuzi back, she had no intention to interfere in the relationship between Zhao Xiaoxian and Lin Tianyu now. "Mrs. Lin, why did Lin Tianyu abandon Xiaoxian at the airport? Why is he refusing to answer my calls? Is he going to break up with Xiaoxian because of the woman called Yuzi?" Mrs. Zhao asked. "I'm worried about that too. Tianyu didn't answer my calls either, so I have no idea what's going on now. If I get through to him, I'll call you back, all right?" Mrs. Lin said. What Tianyu has done this time is too much. He shouldn't abandon Xiaoxian at the airport and will never accept such behavior. "Mrs. Lin, you must give us a satisfactory explanation," Mrs. Zhao said in annoyance. Sure, I'll talk to him once he answers my call or is home." Mrs. Lin gave Mrs. Zhao a perfunctory answer, then hung up. Afterwards, Mrs. Lin wore an expression of obvious disdain. She didn't care about the Zhao family right now, because her son was going to marry a woman who was much better than Zhao Xiaoxian. Chu Peihan and the others didn't go to City B, so they could only wait until the video of the release conference was out. At this moment, it was still class time. The majority of the students in the number 3 high school in City F had a habit of wearing earphones and looking down at their phones in excitement in classes. In the beginning, the teachers were all mad because nobody was listening to them. However, when the teachers found out what the students were watching, they said nothing. Many teachers even watched the video on their phones as well. Gu Ning was a legend and the honor of their school. All the teachers agreed on it that Gu Ning was a genius. Not only the students in the number 3 high school, but other people who knew Gu Ning also watched the video. As a result, the video had been viewed over 1 million times, reposted over 100,000 times, and commented on hundreds of thousands of times within just half an hour. Most of the comments were positive. In the Ling family's house, the capital. Ever since Master Ling had found out that Gu Ning was Leng Xiaoting's girlfriend, he paid a lot of attention to the news about her, so he was naturally aware of the opening ceremony and release conference of Jade Beauty Jewelry. He went to visit Jiang Zhongyu in the hospital that morning, so he saw the video that afternoon when he was back home. Jiang Zhongyu recovered very well, but he still had to stay in bed for many days. It was already a miracle after all. If the Jiang family hadn't told the doctors to keep it a secret, this miracle would have been spread abroad in the medical field by now. The medicine was Gu Ning's gift to Master Ling, so they were afraid that it would cause Gu Ning trouble if it went abroad. When Master Ling got home, he told Chen Bing to search for news about Jade Beauty Jewelry on the internet. Find you chapters on nv/lbi.com. It was noon, so there were only videos taken by the audience on the internet. What the reporters had taken would be released after editing a few hours later. When Master Ling watched a video, he noticed Leng Xiaoting standing next to Gu Ning at first glance. They were really a good-looking couple, and Master Ling appreciated Gu Ning more now. After that, Master Ling saw Su Jinchen standing alone aside, so he gloated over it and called Master Su at once. "Su, have you watched the videos of the opening ceremony of Jade Beauty Jewelry on the internet? My grandson and granddaughter-in-law look so good standing together, but your grandson is still single and alone without any girls standing by his side." Master Ling was showing off. Hearing that, Master Su was annoyed. The last thing he wanted to hear about now was Master Ling's grandson and granddaughter-in-law, because he would be jealous of him. Ling, you just want to see me being jealous of you. Let me tell you, I'll never watch them. Master Su said, then hung up on Master Ling. Although Master Su said that on the phone with Master Ling, he still told Su Qining to help him find the videos right after he hung up. Jade Beauty Jewelry? Isn't that Gu Ning's company? Why didn't she invite me to attend its opening ceremony? Su Qining was dissatisfied. Master Su, however, was surprised. Do you know Gu Ning too? Of course. Su Qining said, then searched Jade Beauty Jewelry on the internet, and there were many links coming out. After watching several videos, Su Qining found out that her older brother had attended the opening ceremony without telling her. What? My older brother was there too. Why didn't he tell me? Su Jinchen was more displeased now. Master Ling was still watching the video of the opening ceremony of Jade Beauty Jewelry. When he saw that Gu Ning donated the money she had won in a competition of stone gambling to a charity foundation, he was touched. Gu Ning was a good girl. When Master Ling watched Gu Ning's short speech at the release conference, he liked Gu Ning's modest attitude and her air of confidence and power. Gu Ning was a girl with ambition. Master Ling seldom complimented other people, especially a young girl, because he had seen countless outstanding people during his life. However, Gu Ning was an exception. At the same time, he felt so happy that Gu Ning was Leng Xiaoting's girlfriend. Haha, do you see that? She's my granddaughter-in-law. Master Ling wore a satisfied smile, saying to Chen Bing. Chen Bing now lost count of how many times he had heard Master Ling saying that to him this afternoon. In addition, Gu Ning hadn't married into the Ling family yet, so she wasn't Master Ling's granddaughter-in-law yet. Chen Bing, of course, didn't dare to say it aloud, in case it would ruin Master Ling's good mood. Lin Lijuan and Gu Qinxiang failed to get a divorce, but they were separated now and Lin Lijuan moved back to live in the Lin family's house. Although Lin Lijuan's older brother, Lin Dekhang, said nothing, and Lin Yuehao didn't care about it, her sister-in-law, Zhang Meiyu, wasn't happy about it. She didn't pick on Lin Lijuan, but wasn't very friendly to her either. Even though Lin Lijuan had helped the Lin family a lot, it was easy to cause conflict if they lived under the same roof. Lin Lijuan wore a sad expression all the time and damaged the relaxed atmosphere in the Lin family's house, so nobody felt comfortable. Zhang Meiyu had tried to persuade Lin Lijuan not to divorce Gu Qinxiang because a divorce wouldn't do any good to the children. As long as Gu Qinxiang stopped cheating on her, they could still live a good life. However, Lin Lijuan was drowning in sorrow now, and refused Zhang Meiyu's advice, so Zhang Meiyu gave up. In order to avoid having to get along with Lin Lijuan, Zhang Meiyu often left the house and went to shop or play mahjong with her friends once she was free. At this moment, Zhang Meiyu was cooking in the kitchen, while Lin Lijuan was sitting in the living room with an absent look on her face. Lin Yuehao was half lying on the sofa playing on his phone. After ads, a hostess said in the TV, "Welcome back to Fashion Broadcast, we're going to show the release conference of Jade Beauty Jewelry and Charm." Hearing that, both Lin Lijuan and Lin Yuehao were surprised and watched TV. They all knew that Jade Beauty Jewelry was Gu Ning's company, so they paid special attention to it. The hostess continued to introduce Jade Beauty Jewelry and Charm before the release conference was shown on the screen. Although Jade Beauty Jewelry and Charm are newly established companies, they've attracted a lot of attention and have gotten many positive comments since their products went on the market. Their boss, however, is a senior in high school who is just 18 years old. Afterwards, the release conference was shown on the screen, and Gu Ning and the others went on the stage. Lin Yuehao was always scared of Gu Ning, but he didn't hate her. He was just a hoodlum. Once he realized that he didn't have the ability to hurt Gu Ning, he was unwilling to annoy her again. Lin Lijuan, on the other hand, hated Gu Ning more than ever, especially after Gu Ning became so successful. Her daughter was still in jail. Although it wasn't Gu Ning's fault, Lin Lijuan blamed Gu Ning for everything. Therefore, when Lin Lijuan saw Gu Ning on TV, she glared at Gu Ning like Gu Ning was her biggest enemy. Read lat stchers on n/v/l/b.i.cm. OMG, Gu Ning is so awesome! Lin Yuehao exclaimed in shock. He wasn't jealous of Gu Ning, but admired her. Hearing that, Lin Lijuan gave Lin Yuehao a glance with dissatisfaction. Lin Yuehao ignored Lin Lijuan's glance and despised her in his heart. In his eyes, Lin Lijuan was an idiot who held a grudge against such an outstanding niece. If Lin Lijuan's family hadn't annoyed Gu Ning, they wouldn't be in such a dreadful condition now. Lin Yuehao totally forgot that he had bullied Gu Ning before too. Zhang Meiyu heard Lin Yuehao's voice and walked out from the kitchen. When she saw Gu Ning on the TV, she was also interested. Seeing that Gu Ning was so successful now, Zhang Meiyu hated Lin Lijuan for what Lin Lijuan had done to Gu Ning. If Lin Lijuan's family could have gotten along well with Gu Ning would have been willing to give them a helping hand now. Gu Qingxiang's construction company could barely stay afloat now. Gu Qing's family, on the other hand, lived a much better life than them because of their close relationship with Gu Man and Gu Ning. Gu Qingyang's family had also changed their attitude towards Gu Man, Gu Ning and Gu Qing's family. If anything bad happened to them, Gu Ning would help them without a doubt. Although Zhang Meiyu wasn't a generous and kind woman, she wouldn't criticize or bully her poor relatives. In addition, it wasn't something shameful that a woman had a premarital pregnancy nowadays, but Lin Lijuan and Gu Man's mother had used that to humiliate Gu Man and Gu Ning many times. All of a sudden, Lin Lijuan smashed the remote control on the coffee table with a loud sound, which scared Lin Yuehao and Zhang Meiyu, who were enjoying the news on TV. Why? Why am I living a terrible life now, but the bitch Gu Man and the bastard Gu Ning are in the spotlight? Lin Lijuan shouted in anger and with strong hatred. Hearing that, Lin Yuehao and Zhang Meiyu frowned with dissatisfaction. Lin Yuehao snorted with disdain. Why? Because they have the ability to live a good life. No, no, no. Lin Lijuan couldn't accept it. Seeing Lin Lijuan being crazy, Lin Yuehao didn't bother to argue with her. Zhang Meiyu also remained silent. However, Lin Lijuan grabbed the ashtray on the coffee table and threw it at the TV with great force. In her eyes, Gu Ning along with her release conference would be ruined once the TV was broken. Neither Lin Yuehao nor Zhang Meiyu expected Lin Lijuan's abrupt movement, and the TV screen was broken at once. Lin Yuehao and Zhang Meiyu were struck dumb. Are you crazy? Lin Yuehao jumped up from the sofa and glared at Lin Lijuan. Lin Lijuan was also struck dumb by her behavior and trembled in fear with a pale face. She had no intention to hit the TV, but she just lost control of herself. At this moment, there was black smoke coming out of the TV, and Lin Yuehao dashed over to pull out its plug in case it would explode. When a TV was on fire, one should never put it out with water. Instead, after cutting off the electricity, one should use quilts to extinguish it from the sides of the TV to prevent cathode ray tubes from exploding and injuring people. Although the TV wasn't on fire yet, there was black smoke coming out, so it was likely to explode soon. After that, Lin Yuehao supported Zhang Meiyu moving away from the living room. Seeing Lin Lijuan standing still, although Lin Yuehao disliked her, he still reminded her to walk away. Why are you still standing there? Do you want to die in the explosion? Hearing that, Lin Lijuan stumbled away from the TV. Aunt Lijuan, I know that you've been living a hard life these days, but it's not my family's fault. Lin Yuehao's sympathy for Lin Lijuan was gone now. He knew that she was in a bad mood and hadn't done it on purpose, but she still caused damage. Right at this moment, Lin Dekheng came back and heard Lin Yuehao's angry voice from outside of the door. Therefore, he criticized Lin Yuehao once he walked inside. Lin Yue Hao, mind your words. How can you talk to your aunt like that? He also understood that his family disliked Lin Lijuan, but they couldn't chase her away after all. However, Lin Dekhang smelled an acrid dense smoke and frowned. What happened? Why do I smell smoke? When Lin Dechang's sight fell on the TV, he was astonished. What's going on here? The TV was playing the release conference of Gu Ning's jewelry brand just then, and Aunt Lijuan suddenly hit it with an ashtray, Lin Yuehao said, then gave Lin Lijuan an unkind glance. Hearing that, Lin Dekhang changed his expression. Lin Lijuan, I know that you're in a terrible mood now, but you can't damage our home appliances to vent your anger. You're not a 3-year-old kid. Don't you know how dangerous it is if the TV explodes? I'm afraid that we can't keep you here with us. La test novls on n.co. Lin Dekhang felt a strong sense of danger now. If Lin Lijuan lost control of herself again, they could be killed along with her. Lin Lijuan didn't know what to say, and ran out of the house in anger. Lin Dekhang was mad, but didn't try to catch up. Although Lin Dekhang didn't mind Lin Lijuan staying here with his family, it didn't mean that he would tolerate her rude behavior. Gu Qingxiang's company couldn't stay afloat now, and he wasn't able to pay his workers this month. Nobody was willing to help him, and Gu Qingxiang was really hopeless now. The Lin family didn't have much money either, and Lin Dekhang was unwilling to help Gu Qingxiang now given what he had done before. Besides, Gu Qingxiang had annoyed Gu Ning, who was the only person who had the ability to help him out. Therefore, Gu Qingxiang could only sell his house to get some money. When Gu Ning was about to eat, her phone rang. She glanced at the caller, then walked aside to answer it. Miss Gu, I thought that you would call me to thank me after receiving my gift. Qi Tianlin complained on the phone. In fact, Qi Tianlin was waiting for Gu Ning's call to invite him for a meal after he sent her a gift at the opening ceremony. However, Gu Ning never called him, and he felt upset at being ignored. Hearing that, Gu Ning remembered his gift, but didn't feel embarrassed at all. Thank you so much for your gift. Qi Tianlin was struck dumb for a second. Gu Ning simply gave him a perfunctory answer, and he didn't know what to say all of a sudden. I don't think you're grateful, Qi Tianlin said with dissatisfaction. Gu Ning pulled her lips and asked, What do you want me to do? Let's gamble again, Qi Tianlin said. No problem, but I'm not interested in small bets, Gu Ning said. She wouldn't reject it if Qi Tianlin wanted to send her money. Do you want to set 3 billion yuan as the bet for a round again? Qi Tianlin sounded unwilling. Although he could afford it, he was unwilling to lose that much money by gambling. Of course not. 100 million a round is enough, Gu Ning said. Deal. Qi Tianlin agreed with alacrity. He didn't believe that he would lose every time. Can we gamble after a few days? I'm very busy right now, Gu Ning said. Sure. Qi Tianlin understood that Gu Ning was busy right now. After hanging up the call with Qi Tianlin, Gu Ning called Siti and thanked him in case he had the same thought as Qi Tianlin. Have you finished your work? Siti asked with concern once he answered Gu Ning's call. Compared with Qi Tianlin, Siti was more considerate, so he didn't seem displeased although Gu Ning called after a long time. Yeah, I'm sorry I've been very busy these past few days, so I only had time to call you right now. Thank you so much for your gift, Gu Ning said. You're welcome, Siti said. They talked for a while before hanging up. Gu Ning then went back to the dining room and enjoyed the meal with her friends. Su Jinchen invited them to have fun together tonight, but Gu Ning had to leave to deal with other things, so she would be absent. When they were gone, Gu Ning told Gu Man what had happened to Tang Haifeng. Gu Man was scared and relieved when she found out that Tang Haifeng was fine now. Should we visit him? Gu Man asked. Gu Man now asked for Gu Ning's opinions for everything. Sure, let's go visit him right now, Gu Ning said. Great. Let me change my clothing first, Gu Man said, then went upstairs. She had just cooked and smelled like food, and it wasn't appropriate if she showed up before Tang Haifeng like that. Gu Ning said to Gao Yi and Xiao Ye, you two haven't enjoyed each other's company for a long while, so you can have a day off. Go have a date, there is no need to come back tonight. I'll call you if I need you tomorrow. Gu Ning purposely said that there was no need for them to come back tonight, because they were a couple and they needed a sex life. Gao Yi and Xiao Ye understood Gu Ning's meaning and felt a little shy, but both of them were very happy. Leng Xiaoting also understood, but he felt upset because he thought that Gu Ning and he hadn't enjoyed each other's company for a long while either. However, in fact, they had only been apart for one night. Thanks, boss, Gao Yi and Xiao Ye said. Do you need a car? Gu Ning asked. I don't think so. We can take a walk, Gao Yi said. Great, bye-bye, Gu Ning said. Once Gao Yi and Xiao Ye were gone, Leng Xiaoting walked towards Gu Ning, but Gu Man walked downstairs just as he was about to kiss her. Leng Xiaoting stepped back at once, and felt quite aggrieved. Gu Ning was amused, but she could do nothing about it now. Where are Gao Yi and Xiao Ye? Gu Man noticed that Gao Yi and Xiao Ye were absent when she walked into the living room. Oh, I told them to take the day off, Gu Ning said. On the way to the hospital, Gu Ning checked her email box and saw that Kay had already sent her detailed information about Xiang Dongping. Xiang Dongping was 43 years old and came from a village around City B. He was a chauffeur for a boss of a small company, so the car he had driven was actually his boss's. In addition, there was nothing unusual with the bank cards and phone numbers under his name. After checking the surveillance videos, Gu Ning found that Xiang Dongping had driven the car out for repairs and didn't come back until noon today. As for the section from the garage to the tunnel, Xiang Dongping had dined in a restaurant and sat there for a long time till Tang Haifeng's car passed by. He then drove his car and followed behind. It wasn't conclusive proof, because it could be a coincidence. Xiang Dongping seemed to be innocent, but the car crash was indeed a scheme. Kay had also found many details about Xiang Dongping's family. He lived with his old mother, his wife and his son, but his son was suffering from a serious disease and needed a surgery. His family couldn't afford it, so they gave up. However, Xiang Dongping's son was admitted to the hospital yesterday and was about to have the surgery today. It turned out that someone who lived abroad had paid the surgery fee of 200,000 yuan for Xiang Dongping after reading the post in which Xiang Dongping introduced his son's condition and tried to raise money for his son on the internet. It seemed that Xiang Dongping didn't make the deal with someone for money. The anonymous donor transferred the money through Swiss bank, and Kay failed to hack into its database to get the person's identity. Although Kay was an ace international hacker, there were still some things he couldn't do. After reading the email sent by Kay, Gu Ning realized that she had met a powerful enemy. Actually, if the person wasn't cunning or powerful enough, he wouldn't dare to scheme against the Tang family. Since Gu Ning hadn't gotten useful information yet, she decided to be patient, because she believed that her enemy would soon take action again. When they arrived at the hospital, Tang Yunhang and Chao Ruihua were in Tang Haifeng's ward. Tang Yunrong and Jiang Lihua, on the other hand, had been there the entire time. Without any outsiders in the room, there was no need for Tang Haifeng to pretend to be unconscious. Do you have any news? Gu Ning asked. Some directors of our corporation came to visit father a few minutes ago, right when the doctor came to check father's body, and the result wasn't positive, Tang Yunhang said. Tang Haifeng had been lying unconscious on the bed for a long time, so the doctor came to examine him to see what the cause of it was. At the same time, several directors of the Tang family's business group came to visit Tang Haifeng. In that case, Tang Deming got to know Tang Haifeng's condition without their special arrangement. "How is the driver who caused the car crash?" Gu Ning asked again. "He's still unconscious too. We couldn't use his phone without its password, so the police found his family address from his ID card, but nobody was home, so we were unable to contact his family," Tang Yunhang said. Lin Tianyu came back home after enjoying dinner outside. Once he was back, Mrs. Lin asked him with anticipation, "Tianyu, how is it? Did you get her back?" Although it was a question, Mrs. Lin was very confident that the answer would be affirmative. She didn't believe that Yuzi would reject her son. "I went to her store, but it's closed today," Lin Tianyu said. "Did you call her?" Mrs. Lin asked again. "She blacklisted me after we broke up," Lin Tianyu replied. All west ch.rs on n.o/vli/n/.cm. What? How dare she do that? Mrs. Lin frowned with dissatisfaction. In her eyes, Yuzi was always inferior to them. "Give me her number." "I'll call her," Mrs. Lin said, and took out her phone. "It's fine. I'll go find her myself tomorrow." Lin Tianyu stopped his mother. "Fine." Since Lin Tianyu said so, Mrs. Lin didn't insist, but she was quite displeased with Yuzi's behavior. "Oh, how about Zhao Xiaoxian?" "Her mother called me and asked for an explanation," Mrs. Lin said. Hearing that, Lin Tianyu's eyes were full of disdain. "Let it be. I'll handle it after I find Yuzi." Lin Tianyu was worried that Yuzi would reject him. If he broke up with Zhao Xiaoxian right now, he could lose both women at the same time. Therefore, Zhao Xiaoxian was his backup. "What should I say if her mother calls again?" Mrs. Lin asked. "Just tell her that you can't find me," Lin Tianyu said. "Sure." Mrs. Lin agreed. Zhao Xiaoxian was in a terrible mood because neither Mrs. Lin nor Lin Tianyu called her back. One of her female friends called her and said that she had just broken up with her boyfriend and invited her to have fun together. Zhao Xiaoxian agreed since she also wanted to drown her sorrows. Zhao Xiaoxian cared about her appearance very much, and dressed herself up before she went out to meet her friend. Although Zhao Xiaoxian wasn't a gorgeous beauty, she wasn't ugly either, and also looked attractive because of her good body shape. Mrs. Zhao didn't stop Zhao Xiaoxian from hanging out with her friends. Besides, she was in a bad mood today, so Mrs. Zhao wouldn't say anything except to remind her to be careful. The weather was getting warmer, so Zhao Xiaoxian put on a super low-cut black bustier, and her boobs were half exposed. When Zhao Xiaoxian arrived at the private room her friend booked, she heard moans of sexual pleasure the second she pushed the door open. There were 3 people, 1 woman and 2 men, on the sofa with their bodies barely covered in clothes. The woman was sitting on one man's lap wearing a short, tight skirt, and the man's hand was moving between her legs. Her shirt was wide open with her breasts bare in the air, and she was moaning from the pleasure. Seeing the scene, Zhao Xiaoxian didn't show any astonishment or panic, because it wasn't the first time she had seen it. To be specific, she had also done that many times before. In the old days, once she broke up with her boyfriend, she would go to a clubhouse for money boys. However, she wouldn't allow the money boys to penetrate her, but just had sex with hands or mouth. She stopped doing that after Lin Tianyu became her boyfriend. All new chapters nnv.bin.com. The sound of Zhao Xiaoxian pushing the door open interrupted them, and they looked at her with one accord. "Xiaoxian, come here." The woman smiled with satisfaction, and didn't seem sad at all. She had plenty of choices to satisfy her sexual needs, and she didn't care about a serious relationship at all. Zhao Xiaoxian walked over and sat down with a calm face. She poured a glass of beer and downed it at once. What? You're not happy today. The woman stood up from the man's legs and adjusted her clothes before walking to Zhao Xiaoxian. She sat down right next to Zhao Xiaoxian and laid an arm on her shoulder. Did you argue with Lin Tianyu again? Although it was a question, she already had the answer. Yeah, Zhao Xiaoxian said. Do you want to have some fun with them? The woman asked. Enjoy it yourself. You know I stopped doing that after Lin Tianyu became my boyfriend, Zhao Xiaoxian said. They were close friends and shared many dirty secrets with each other. In other people's eyes, they were still good well-educated girls. No way. You can't stop having fun just because of him. Do you think he's loyal to you? The woman said, as if she had already seen through men. She had slept with different men, some of which had a girlfriend or were even married, but none of them cared about it. Hearing that, Zhao Xiaoxuan's hand which was holding the glass stopped for a second. She didn't know whether Lin Tianyu was cheating on her, but she felt mad once she thought of the fact that Lin Tianyu still liked Yuzi. She was loyal to him, but he was still in love with another woman. Nobody will know what you've done if you have some fun here. Come on, don't wear a sad face all the time. The woman persuaded Zhao Xiaoxian to join them because she thought that it would be more fun to have sex with more people. Fine. Zhao Xiaoxian agreed in annoyance. She was still mad at Lin Tianyu. Since he still loved Yuzi, she thought that it was unfair to expect her to stay loyal to him. Zhao Xiaoxian drank another glass of beer, then undressed herself right in front of them. After that, Zhao Xiaoxian walked to the two money boys along with her friend to have a foursome. Gu Ning, Gu Man and Leng Xiaoting left the hospital an hour later. When they got home, Gu Man went to rest in her room and leave space for Gu Ning and Leng Xiaoting. Gu Man understood that Gu Ning was a mature girl with principles, so she knew that Gu Ning would protect herself well. The moment Gu Man was back in her room, Leng Xiaoting stared at Gu Ning. He wanted to do something, but was afraid that Gu Man might interrupt them. Gu Ning smiled and said, "Let's go for a walk." Why not? Leng Xiaoting agreed at once. As long as they could stay together for a while without other people around, he was satisfied. Afterwards, Leng Xiaoting and Gu Ning walked out of the house. Gu Ning, however, went straight to the garage once they were out, which confused Leng Xiaoting. Are we going to drive? Gu Ning beamed. Nope. Come here. I have a gift for you. Hearing that, Leng Xiaoting followed her. It was dark in the garage, but Gu Ning had no intention to turn on the light. All of a sudden, Gu Ning turned around and hugged Leng Xiaoting's neck, reaching up to kiss him. Leng Xiaoting was struck dumb for a second, then clasped Gu Ning and kissed her back while his hands moved over her body. As the kiss became wilder, Leng Xiaoting felt dissatisfied and wanted more. However, they were in the garage now. An idea dawned on Leng Xiaoting and he asked, "Why don't we do it in the car?" Gu Ning was surprised, and also felt excited, but she was slightly worried. The space is so small in the car, and I'm afraid that we'll make too much noise." Gu Ning was worried that Gu Man would find out what they were doing. "I'll be gentle," Leng Xiaoting said. Gu Ning, however, doubted it, because Leng Xiaoting was always full of energy and was sometimes rough. Well truckers, that's all for this video. See you all in the next video.